All right, looks like we are live. Welcome to our little impromptu stream. We'll
Maybe bring it up so you can see if it's working or.
wait, what? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, forgive us. This is our first time streaming.
Yeah, we don't know if everything is working yet.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna share it. But we will get started momentarily.
What is that?
Skipped frames. What? Skip frames for a few seconds. Yeah, I can close this. Okay, so hopefully this is this will be a smooth, relatively smooth stream. This is the first time we've streamed from the computer. This is totally impromptu. We've been planning on doing this stream for a little while. Okay, yeah, so yeah, I am live. Let me just share through Twitter.
Yeah, how do you know for sure it's working though?
Well, I mean, it looks like it's working. Hold on.
I'm just paranoid because a lot of times in the past, like when I've been on like voice calls, like my audio is very choppy or just wouldn't work at all. So I'm just really afraid that we have like a completely silent video right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna like bring up the. Let's take a look.
How do you know for sure
Yeah,
it's working?
yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's working. It's working.
Perfect.
Okay, so for a depending on when you guys joined or started subscribing to me, you may remember that I did a video on the mysterious Mr. Enter and his quite interesting thoughts on the COVID pandemic at the time. And I was surprised to see that video get as positive a response as it actually did. I'm really impressed.
No, thousands of views. That was
yeah,
cool,
and not even just the views, but like a lot. I got a lot of thumbs up. It got way more thumbs up than it got thumbs down. It got a lot of positive comments, including from some people who've even said that like they're still fans of his, but they're just like, yeah, but he had like all the wrong things to say on this. And I got plenty of comments in the video essentially asking me to do another video on it, but first off, Cirrus, yeah, we can see that on the screen. Cirrus already did a video on his take on healthcare not being a human right. But the only other video that he did is this one, which is, as I said in the description, an honest to God 1 hour and 8 minute. I said 9 in the description, but it's an 8-minute video on not just the pandemic, but just like everything. And it's terrible. I watched like a few seconds of it back when he first uploaded.
I haven't watched none of it.
Yeah,
so I'm going in here completely blind.
Yeah, which let me introduce. This is my new husband, Dmitry.
Hi guys.
We got married yesterday.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for it to be finalized.
Yep.
But yeah, when I plan on doing this, like, because I basically said, you know what, I'll do this video because plenty of people in the comments are wanting me to do it, but I don't want to do it alone. So thankfully he moved in like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And so we were just gonna do like this little I don't know how long it'll be, but stream.
We're gonna last as long as we can.
Yeah, but we make first off, we make no promises to watch the entire video because, like I said, it's over an hour. I cannot freaking believe that he made an over an hour long video.
Beautiful, sure.
And we're gonna focus less on like quote unquote fact checking or whatever because now, like, at this point, like, he's not gonna listen to reason or whatever, and This is just gonna be like I don't know, a bully stream.
Yeah.
This is just gonna be a stream where we just like point and laugh at just how ridiculous he's being. Geez, I need to fix the audio. Okay, that should be good now.
All right.
Just need to keep it out of the red. Yeah, this is just gonna be a video where we just like mock how ridiculous he's being, because I also want to say that he's lost like, I don't know how many thousands of subs.
Quite a large amount, actually.
Yeah,
he still has a lot, but he
hasn't
was hemorrhaging them.
He hasn't been doing himself any favors with these ill-informed takes he's been making the past like 6 months, and it's almost like he's like like I don't know, having a, like, I guess Mel Gibson level meltdown.
Or Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen would probably be a better comparison because, he deleted his DeviantArt because he made, like, all these crazy conspiracy theory posts about, like, stuff going on with COVID is just a conspiracy to make Trump look bad and stuff. Which, just to clarify, he says he's not a Trump supporter.
Says he's a centrist.
Yeah, he just happens to defend everything that Trump does, but he's not a Trump supporter. Thank you to Hex, who just congratulated us.
Thank you.
And I guess let's not keep them waiting any longer. Let's just. Oh God!
Come on, do it.
Let's see how long we're gonna last.
All right, here goes nothing.
Okay, and let us know in the comments if anything is like out of whack or something.
The year 2020 will, more than anything else, be defined by the ongoing pandemic and how our societies have reacted to it. At the tail end of 2019, a novel virus was detected in the Wuhan district of China. It was a coronavirus, which refers to a wide variety of a particular shape of virus that includes everything from Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome to the common cold. What this one was most similar to is SARS, which was declared a local pandemic in the country of China in the early 2000s. As such, the current virus was dubbed SARS-CoV-2, which causes the disease that we know as COVID-19, or colloquially known as the coronavirus. Unlike SARS, which was mostly self-contained to China, COVID-19 made its way across the world to every continent except Antarctica, and affecting almost every nation.
Did you really have to specify that it didn't make it to Antarctica? There's no one living in Antarctica.
There are like a few like scientists and stuff that live there, but it's a very insignificant population.
Yeah, it's penguins. That's all that lives
on Earth. Even before that, we had heard scary things about the virus.
Let's see. As far as success, let's see. Transcripts of video. Oh yeah. One other thing I'll add. He seems to have learned his lesson on making ridiculous claims with like no source to back him up,
or using Reddit as a source.
Yeah, no. He still uses Reddit as a source.
Oh, of course he does.
But I'm saying that he actually linked entire bibliography of sorts to his sources, which there are so many of them. Like I said, it's like he was trying to make up for the fact that he had like no sources in his.
Now he just went to the opposite end
and I did not check all the sources because I have a life. But the first source he lists is literally just a video from Twitter. That literally the source itself, the person who tweeted out the video, it's supposedly the video of the people, the claim he made in his other video that people in China were like welding people into their apartments so that they don't infect anyone or something. And the video itself says it is an unconfirmed video of police in China welding an apartment shut.
Yeah, the person said he didn't know what was actually happening.
Yeah, and there's no follow-up tweet to that saying that like it's now been confirmed that is what it was. It still says unconfirmed. And specifically what the video shows essentially is like, yeah, the outside of like this big building. I don't know if it's an apartment or not, but it looks like they're doing something to like the front door. And the key thing is though, I cannot tell if the apartment is populated or not.
It could be abandoned for all we know.
Yeah, it literally, if I could guess, it looked more like they were conducting like a military exercise or something. Yeah, which that happens like, and for all I know, the video could be from like another year. Like, yeah. I don't know when that video was taken, but like I said, I'll give him that. At least he's actually listing the sources where he's finding this information.
They're not particularly good.
They're not good sources, but what do you expect?
It had a long incubation period, 14 days being thrown around a lot, but there were stories of even longer incubations going on, for almost a month. People speculated that the virus was airborne, and people panicked. But that
it is airborne, though.
And also,
Like,
it's a novel virus. We don't know everything about it yet, and certainly
I-
not back in March.
Yeah, like, I love how he's, like, condescendingly talking about this, like, oh, well, there was so much speculation early on. You do realize that this shit didn't exist until, like, the end of 2019. Like, yeah, there was other SARS viruses, but this is a novel version of that virus. It is different from the other strains.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
mostly happened later. Let's go back to January and talk about how we got to July. This year is long, and it might be wise to go over its history in order to
clarify that. Yeah, he uploaded this in July.
Yeah.
So there's a few months. So there's a few months old.
17, 20.
So I will acknowledge that, like, maybe he's evolved a few, but on a few
doubt
things,
it.
but I won't hold my breath.
I doubt it.
Yeah, because he is. That's one thing. He has done nothing but, like, he's not doubled down or tripled down. He's like quadrillionth down on every single, like, stupid claim that he's made from, like, his previous video.
He just refuses to admit that he's wrong.
Yeah, like, the most he did was make that video response about, like, okay, like, people got mad at me for saying healthcare is not a human right. But, I mean, that was just basically a video saying, yeah, I think healthcare is not a human right. Here's why. And then a bunch of uninformed BS about why he doesn't, like, because he apparently thinks that human rights are things like free speech, which...
Don't tell me. He's one of those, like, quote-unquote classical liberals, aren't he?
I have no idea.
No,
but
I wouldn't be surprised.
But he essentially thinks that, like, for, like, things like no, human rights are things like that you need to live. That's why they're called human rights, because you need them in order to survive, such as food or healthcare or shelter, stuff like that. Free speech, you know, while, you know, I'm not advocating against free speech, you don't need that to live. Like, that is not what a human right is.
better predict its future, and the legacy that this year will leave in future history books. Despite being discovered at the tail end of 2019, no one outside of China had really heard of COVID-19 until January of 2020. And what we heard in January...
Not true, actually. Not true. The U.S. government was getting information about COVID-19 as early as November last year.
Yeah, like
a year ago. Not exactly a year ago. It was more like the tail end of November. So
right, like around
there are. You can look this up. Like I said, I know people are probably going to criticize me in the comments once this video live stream is done, saying that, like, oh, well, you didn't show sources this time. It's like I said, I showed the sources that I needed to in my previous video. I'm not going to pull up a bunch of sources that I have at the handy. This is completely impromptu.
We're only a minute in, by the way.
We're only a minute in, the administration in America was getting information about the COVID-19 back in, like, November and December. We didn't just start hearing about it in January.
was frightening, both of the disease and what the authoritarian government of China was doing to curb the spread of it. By late January, with only around 25 deaths...
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I know I keep pausing so frequently, but you have no... People in America keep criticizing China for, like, keeping information of the virus on the down low, and while I'm not going to, like, deny that they did that, I don't think we have any room to complain about that, considering our government pretty much did the same thing.
Yeah, they're still doing, like, the same thing now.
They're doing it now. Like Trump is still acting like, oh, it's gone, or it'll go away. It's going away, even though it's not. We still have, like, our numbers are shooting through the roof.
It's worse than it was even in the spring now.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't think we have, like, any room to complain that, like, oh, well, China wasn't completely honest with everyone. It's like, huh?
China had stopped all train, bus, and air traffic. They made surgical masks mandatory. By February, we had seen footage that suggested that the government was sealing people in their apartments to prevent the spread.
This is the video I was talking about. I don't see anyone in the windows.
I don't see no people, no lights are on.
That apartment or that
no
building,
curtains in the window either.
There's curtains, like, right there, but
but that's most of them are there, not usually.
Yeah, but like I said, like, there's no one, like, at the windows, like smashing them to, like, let them out or whatever. It literally like I said, that looks like a vacant building. That looks like a building that's either, like, a homeless shelter or whatever that's
Or just an abandoned apartment building.
yeah.
Or we don't even know if it's an apartment building
and
even.
I don't. Let's see. Okay, let's see. There's more of it. Okay. Is there anyone inside?
That does not look like a lived-in building. That door is in very rough shape.
Yeah, and
People were unable to leave their buildings for medical treatment to curb the spread of the disease. China even used drones to spray disinfectant. None of these stopped China
they
from
actually did something.
Like, that's a bad thing?
I know, he's acting like oh well, yeah, I get it. It's like dystopian and weird using drones, but you need to do something. You can't just do nothing and let it spread. And also, China's now, for the most part, back to, like, regular life for them, which, isn't great or whatever. Yeah, like, they did all this, like, crazy stuff to, like, curb the spread of the virus.
But it worked.
And now they're back to some semblance of normal life. Like, with maybe a few added measures to make sure that nobody starts spreading it again.
Of the disease for the first leg of the year. That may be because their government was more concerned about the diplomatic look of unleashing a novel virus onto the world than any medical concern.
Yeah, unleashing it. Nice choice of words there.
Oh, so now he's basically saying that they developed it in a lab
Well, I don't think he's necessarily saying that specifically, but that wording doesn't help. Like, I mean, this is someone who probably, like, watches things like freaking, I don't know, Crowder or something.
Or even worse, I think, just based on...
Or Tim Pool.
Probably
That's probably who he watches. He probably watches because Tim Pool has said that. He has said that China, like, engineered a bioweapon and shit.
Yeah, it's probably him.
It's like...
A man known as Dr. Li rose early concerns over the risk and dangers of the novel coronavirus. The man posted a video on the Chinese social media app WeChat and sent it to private friends and family, but it went public and it went viral. He was forced by the Chinese government to write an apology for doing this. Afterwards, he caught the coronavirus and died roughly around the start of February. Making China look even worse is that they frequently sent out equipment to the rest of the world that was either faulty or infected with the coronavirus. If you want to know why people are supportive of the United States leaving the World Health...
The other thing I love is how he doesn't show, like, specifically the actual, like, news organizations that he's getting these articles from. And like I said, I think there's a reason for that because like they're probably not very reliable.
Yeah.
Health Organization, it all starts here. On January 14th, the WHO released a tweet, this one. In it, they parrot the Chinese authorities saying that person-to-person transmission of the coronavirus was unlikely.
Yeah, this was back when they did...
Novel virus!
Here's the thing. I didn't get a chance to mention this in my last video, because I understand, like if you hear this, it might sound like, oh, they really said person-to-person transmission was unlikely. Why would they say that? Like, wouldn't you be concerned about that? Well, they said it was unlikely because previous strains of COVID weren't transmitted person-to-person. They were transmitted by animals to people. And I know some people are like, wait, how does that work? I can't get into the details.
Not to mention, it's a novel virus.
It has to do with essentially the way that virus is struck. There are some viruses that can only be transmitted by that freaking ice cream truck's outside. I hope it's not being picked up by the audio, but whatever. Like there are some illnesses that are only spread by animals to animals but not to people, or animals to people but not person to person. It's weird and everything, but I understand, like, if you don't fully understand it, but that is why they thought it was unlikely, because previous strains did not transmit from person to person. If you're going to go by previous strains, you would think, it's unlikely that would be the case.
And not to mention, it's a novel virus.
But unfortunately, they were wrong, because this is a novel virus and things can change.
And he's completely ignoring that fact. That's already starting to grate on my nerve. What are you doing?
You can go ahead and keep talking. I'm just getting it.
All right. He'll be right back.
No clear evidence of it. This was, coincidentally, the same day that cases outside of the Wuhan district were discovered. The country as a whole had 201 laboratory-confirmed cases then. For the World Health Organization to not scrutinize the data, to them not having access to this necessary data, or to misunderstand viral spread this severely, put their credibility into question. This issue is compounded later on when it came to the issue of Taiwan.
He doesn't, I mean,
I'm sounding like a broken record at this point, but the fact that he's just ignoring it it's really
I
starting.
just saw the comment. Someone commented "pimp tool."
It's just really starting to piss me off that he's just
Yeah.
repeatedly. He just is not factoring into his commentary at all that
Like,
it's a novel virus.
It's so weird. It's like, it really is like he thinks that like, oh, well, health officials are supposed to like instantly know, like right when they discover the virus, everything it does. It's like, no, that's not how knowledge works.
So 3 minutes in, I'm already starting to get a little angry at this.
Like I said, don't get too angry because otherwise I'll have to turn the volume on the microphone down again. Just don't get shouty. I understand
Yeah.
getting really angry, but just don't get too shouty.
Right.
Would the WHO consider Taiwan's
What the
membership?
hell does Taiwan have to do with anything? What the heck is he showing?
An interview with somebody from the WHO
Hello?
being asked if they would.
Let's make sure I can
I can't hear. I couldn't hear your question.
Okay, yeah. Let me repeat the question.
No, that's okay. Let's move to another one then.
Right, because
And here's
I'm
the
actually
thing,
curious
like,
on
about the
talking about
WHO,
Taiwan as well,
It's
on
like, I
Taiwan's
get that,
case.
like, not like, because John Oliver actually did a really good video on about the WHO, essentially like listing like things that they haven't handled well about the pandemic and things they have handled well about the pandemic. But yeah, to blanket them as if like, oh, they're like in league with China and shit is just stupid. It's stupid. Like,
Seriously, this is shot like a TV show, and that's really.
We decided to
Yeah.
give Dr. Alward another call to follow up.
And I just want to see if you can comment a bit on how Taiwan has done so far in terms of containing the virus.
Well, we've already talked about China, and when you look across all the different areas of China, they've actually all done quite a good job. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for inviting us to participate, and good luck as you go forward with the battle in Hong Kong.
During an interview, a senior member of the World Health Organization dodged questions about Taiwan, despite their successes in their own coronavirus fight. During the interview, the WHO senior member
okay, what do
literally...
those successes involve? Like, I love how he doesn't explain. Like, did they have masks? Maybe. Like a lot of other Asian countries did. What were their containment measures? What did they involve? I love how Enter doesn't mention that.
called Taiwan China, whether it was a slip of the tongue.
He's just a contrarian. Like, he just mentions, oh, well, actually, this country did better. And it's just like, okay, but how did they do better? They did better.
Okay.
Or not, it put even more worry onto the credibility of the WHO to basically ignore Taiwan and its successes, when their methods on controlling the virus could have benefited the rest of the world. So the rest of the world, it looked like the WHO was valuing China's contributions more than actually stopping the ongoing pandemic. Not helping the fact was that this outbreak happened at possibly the worst time that it could have, before the Chinese New Year, which took place on January 25th of this year. During this time, people traveled all over the world, especially to and from China, to visit family and acquaintances from all over the world. When you combine this with the fact that the virus could be
Chinese
incubated...
New Year celebrations were canceled because of the pandemic. Yeah, they didn't just go forth and let the virus spread all throughout China like America has. Yeah, you can look this up. China actually did cancel a lot, not just New Year's, Chinese New Year celebrations, but a lot of other celebrations in general. They did. They did what they needed to do. They canceled their stuff. I don't know why he's acting like...
for up to 14 days. It was a perfect storm for disaster. To put it bluntly, though, the rest of the world didn't help very much.
Yeah,
when rumors of this new virus circulated around the Western world, they were often shot down as racist. Talking about the virus in some areas...
Okay, here's the thing, and there was someone in my comments that brought this up, tried to bring this up, that like, oh, well, people, Trump wanted to ban travel from China, and then they called him racist. Like, yeah, because it was already coming in from Europe, too.
Oh my god.
Like, if he wanted to talk about like a travel ban on... Oh my god, that thing is so loud. I'm sorry if anyone hears that damn ice cream
Yeah, it's
truck
right
outside
our apartment door.
Yeah,
right
it
now.
comes by every day. But anyway, yeah, if America wanted to like ban travel from both China and Europe, because it was coming in through both ends.
Yes.
Both Europe and China at the same time by this time. By the time we had discovered that it was already in America and that this is where it was coming from, it wasn't just coming from China, like Trump likes to say. It was also coming in from Europe, but he only wanted to talk about banning travel from China. Or actually, early on, he didn't. He was like, "No, I'm doing the best with China. We have the best relationship with China," and essentially, like, he was nice to China until his like economic deal went through or whatever, and then he started demonizing China again.
Yes.
Was seen as being prejudiced towards the Chinese. Italy went so far as to have a Hug a Chinese Day campaign. On
Okay,
February
look, I
1st.
get that that's a dumb idea, especially when there was a pandemic going around, and Italy's numbers did get pretty high, and I'm sure that didn't help. But it's like, yeah, it's cringy. It's cringy, and that's about it. It's just cringy, performative crap. But what's
People
done
were
is done.
encouraged to photograph themselves hugging Chinese people in an attempt to curb racism towards the people. Coincidentally or not.
Do you want to? I'm sure. I'm assuming he's just going to ignore the racist attacks against Asians that did occur in America, because there was a spike in hate crime violence, or just racist language and everything directed at Asian people or Asian Americans in America.
Last we thought people on the right thought the virus didn't exist. How come they were attacking them then?
Yeah. They can't seem to make up their minds on that. It either doesn't exist or China sent it.
Schrodinger's
One of
virus.
the worst countries for the virus. This is a theme that was played throughout the globe. In the United States, coronavirus measures became partisan almost immediately. Left-wing politicians such as Nancy Pelosi and Andrew Cuomo not only have participated in the Chinese New Year.
I'm gonna. Again, I haven't seen the full video, and I make no promises to watch the full video, but I'm going to guess he mainly has criticism of the left, but not really the right.
Events, which caused massive gatherings of people in huge urban centers.
And Queens is stronger than ever. It is literally an international tourism site with so many visitors coming to Queens, and it's such a joy to see the Asian American community flourishing here in Queens.
You should come to Chinatown. Precautions have been taken by our city. We know that there is a concern about tourism traveling all throughout the world. But
and again, I'll also say, here's the thing. Most people probably thought this was going to end up being like, bird flu or swine flu, because those were actually handled the way they needed to be handled. Like we essentially caught all of those early. We were able to contact trace early on, quarantine those who had started out with the virus and started before it could spread too much. And it minimized the spread, and it minimized the number of people that died.
I mean, we're back in February. Even he thought this wasn't going to be as bad as it was.
Yeah, because I was going off of okay, let's see.
He thought the government could be this freaking
I know.
stupid.
I knew Trump was a terrible freaking person, but I didn't think he was this dumb to where like this opportunity was gift wrapped for you.
Especially because he could have single-handedly tanked his re-election today.
That's what I mean. It was gift wrapped for you. If you had just dealt with this like it needed to be, you probably would be looking at a guaranteed re-election right now.
Yeah.
And hope that others will come.
The news media did not help either. Many of them made the claim that the flu was more deadly, and they repeated.
Well, that's what we
virus.
Don't get too shouty. Don't get too shouty.
Sorry.
I just don't want you to blow the microphone out.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, I love how he keeps saying this, and it's like that's the information we had at the time.
Let's see, the date is 1/24/20.
Yes, that's the information we had at the time, because we hadn't seen how much COVID had killed people yet.
Yes.
Unmitigated.
Like he seems to think that like scientists are like wizards or something.
I know. It's like, do you think that science just has the ability to see into the future? Like, no, it doesn't. It has the ability to make predictions, educated predictions, but it... Oh my god, that freaking ice cream truck is driving me crazy right now while I'm trying to freaking talk.
People not to worry. The day after the United States issued its first travel restriction, USA Today reported that the flu was more worrying on February 1st. Get used to me saying this, but the media, at least here in the United States, has been a continual problem and probably inadvertently caused many deaths. On January 31st, President Donald Trump issued travel restrictions, not a total travel ban as was reported. Non-citizens that were not family members of the United States citizens could not enter the country from China, and this move was criticized to hell and back.
But they could still enter from Europe. They could still enter from Europe, where the virus was also coming in from. So didn't really, only took care of about half the problem, but
Well, not even really.
yeah.
About this and its validity. The chances that travel restrictions had done anything were slim to none for a variety of
Because it
reasons.
wasn't a complete
First and
travel
foremost,
ban.
it happened far too late. Most of the travel had occurred before the Chinese New Year, and any spread of the disease would have happened by the time
Again,
the travel
they
ban was
didn't
implemented.
have Chinese New Year celebrations counter to what he wants to
Not to
act
mention,
like.
they should have been quarantining anyone who came over. Because isn't that supposed to be standard procedure
Yeah,
during
that
the
was
pandemic?
the other thing. We weren't quarantining early on. We weren't. That's what we did with like Ebola and the swine flu and bird flu. We quarantined early on for people who we thought might have been infected. Like if you were if you had to make it back home because you were a citizen that just happened to be on a business trip during this whole thing starting. What should have happened was when you made it back home, you were quarantined for however many weeks that they needed you to quarantine.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Until you were dubbed by doctors as, okay, you seem like you're good to go. You're not you're not showing any symptoms. You seem okay. But we didn't do that.
Implemented.
Yeah.
The second main issue is this would have been way too easy to circumvent. All someone had to do was fly from China to a third country and then to the United States, or vice
maybe they
versa.
could
It took
have
until
quarantined
March for travel
anyone.
bans on drugs.
Again, like, that's why you quarantine people from coming from that specific part of the world, not just the country itself. Like, that's why you test people. That's why you quarantine people, which, yeah, we weren't even testing at this time.
Yeah. And we're not even February yet.
Implemented as well. Additionally, the coronavirus was already in the country by the time this ban was implemented. The first case was identified on January 20th in Washington State, and by then it was already too late to close the doors. Of course, as time went on, other countries.
I was gonna say, it was technically too late to close the doors with swine flu and bird flu as well, but that's why we quarantined and contact traced so that it wouldn't spread unmitigated.
Countries closed their borders to each other, including members of the European Union, a compilation of countries that were designed for, among other reasons, to have free movement between each other. As time goes on, isolating a country has more and more practical concerns. Let's take New Zealand, for instance. In the ongoing attempt to control the pandemic, New Zealand has been seen as a pinnacle. To be fair, they've had an advantage to start with. New Zealand is an island country in the corner of the world that is not a major hub of travel. On top of that, it has a relatively low population density. Between 5 and 6 million people live in the country of New Zealand, which is less than the population.
And let's just how much of the world's COVID cases do they make up relative to their population? And last I checked, we only make up 4% of the world population. We make up around 20% of the COVID cases.
25, I think.
It's been varying from 20 to 25.
So about anywhere between like a fifth and a quarter,
yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, so that's... I don't care who you are. I don't care how bad at math you are. You can't deny that.
Massachusetts.
Yes.
However, the New Zealand population is scattered across 2 islands the size of the entire eastern United States seaboard. New Zealand locked down hard. On June 8th, they declared that they had no coronavirus left in their country. From that day, they decided to start opening things up again. On the 16th, the country had 2 new cases. 2 people had visited the country.
And they decided to act immediately before it spread and became 200.
Meanwhile, like, we're well over 100,000 cases per day
like
now.
it is literally out of control in this country right now. Like, I don't know when things are going to be able to, like...
Well, I mean, Fauci's estimating 2022.
Which I believe him.
Country for a funeral, one of which was showing no symptoms whatsoever. A third case was seen.
Yeah, again, he keeps saying that, like, oh, well, but they can't say symptoms, so it's not that serious. Yeah, but they could still spread it to people who might actually show symptoms.
It's like
I don't know why that's so hard to understand. Like just because you're asymptomatic doesn't mean you're not contagious. That's what we call carriers in the medical field.
we're only 9
To
minutes
follow.
in.
Also, someone who had come in from another country. New Zealand's main attempt to control the incoming virus was to have people quarantine when entering the country for 14 days. Many people do not follow this protocol. One story tells of a man who cut through a 6-foot fence in order to go to a liquor store. People who test negatively for disease don't believe they're sick, and generally...
Well, that's the thing. Quarantine doesn't work unless you actually enforce it. So enforce it.
don't like to be treated like prisoners. Another man who did test
It's
positive...
a pandemic.
This
This isn't normal.
I want to go outside.
Like, I'm sorry, Mr. Enter, but if you haven't noticed, we're under a really dangerous pandemic. Like, probably the worst we've seen in
since the Spanish flu.
Like, over 100 years ago, and it's like, these aren't normal times, and sometimes when, like,
we live in troubled times.
And when crises happen,
sometimes you gotta be a big boy, pick yourself up by your big boy pants, and make a little sacrifice.
I mean, imagine if he lived during World War II. Just imagine how...
Imagine if he lived during a zombie apocalypse. He'd throw himself out fucking side and let himself get eaten because, well, I'm gonna get a haircut.
But seriously, I'm convinced that if we had the same people today living during World War II, America would have lost within like a few months.
Oh, yeah.
Because contrary to what the right says about the left, the right are just... They're
such... Yeah.
A supermarket. Their health minister had even resigned after breaking his own quarantine rules. Another theme that we'll probably see throughout this entire mess. If New Zealand, an island country that managed to take care of the virus domestically, can't keep it out of its borders, what hope does...
Okay, there's my the lawless / do nothing argument. Oh, well, it couldn't completely keep out the virus, so they might as well just not doing anything at all and just let it spread.
I mean, once again, there's only like 2 or 3 cases in New Zealand, 100,000 in America per day. It's like yeah,
and it's the same thing with like other countries, like freaking South Korea. I think their current death toll is still like 193.
Very low. Yeah, it's
any other country hoped to accomplish by closing its borders. But let's assume that they were able to clamp down.
And here's what I don't understand. Like he just said like, oh, well, what could any country do by closing its borders? Weren't you just advocating for closing the borders earlier? Like he can't even keep like his points.
Something tells me he might be a closeted MAGA.
I'm no doubt. Like.
I bet he's ranting right now on Twitter, just screaming about how he voted for
Trump. He's not on Twitter anymore. He deleted his Twitter account a long time ago.
Oh, he did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, like I said, YouTube is like the only place he's on now, and I predict within like the next year he'll probably like literally delete that and just like stop going on the internet entirely.
And only has himself to blame for just derailing completely.
And keep control and stop COVID from getting in entirely. Then what? New Zealand's economy is highly dependent on tourism. In order to keep COVID out...
Yeah, that's why you do it early on, so that you can continue tourism with restrictions.
And not to mention, might I add, he's talking about problems with capitalism again, and not the pandemic.
That didn't stop New Zealand from like distributing basic income and stuff to people who were in lockdown.
There's nothing else they can do but keep everything else out as well. What's their plan? To keep things closed down until the coronavirus is gone from the rest of the world? No. That's not feasible by any stretch of the imagination. What else could they do? Quarantine everyone who arrives in the country for 14 days? Yeah, I'm sure the tourists are gonna love that. On top of that, travel restrictions...
Well, here's the thing. You're taking tourists from countries that aren't like America or the virus.
Countries that are whitelisted.
Yeah, countries that are current. Like right now, I think maybe we have like 2 countries right now that are allowing people from America to travel to them, because the rest of the world's like, yeah, we don't want your stupid virus. We don't want your stupidity. You keep that shit in America. That's how you continue travel during a pandemic. You whitelist countries that actually know what they're doing, like you do, and then you let them come in. Like you're one of the cool kids.
Based on the disease are usually enforced with infrared thermometer guns. These can be described as inaccurate at best.
What his rant sona?
Yeah,
that's what people call stuff like that. They call it a rant sona. That's why like when he started that, I was like that when he started using the rant sona that basically. I thought, because when I was still watching him, I was like, oh, that's cool that he's actually giving like a face behind, or sort of a character behind this. But at the same time, I was also though that is like reminding me of reactionary YouTubers, and then I guess that's when he started going down the reactionary.
That should have been a warning sign.
That was a warning sign, I realize in retrospect.
Because taking a temperature is one of the least reliable ways to determine if someone actually has disease.
Did you something else?
No, if you're running a fever, you're sick.
Oh.
That's kind of how it works. Yeah, obviously you're gonna miss a few cases whenever you take someone's temperature, because there are some people who are sick that don't show symptoms or that might not have the fever, but that's not the only, like, does he think that COVID tests are just solely determined by your temperature?
Probably.
They literally shove a giant cotton swab in your nose, like.
Oh yeah, that happened to me when I was in the hospital in July.
Yeah, I remember.
It wasn't pleasant.
But yeah, like there's other ways to determine if
Yeah.
you're sick with COVID besides taking your temperature. I don't know if you know that.
Has a fever as a known symptom. First of all, thermometer guns aren't really tested for accuracy out in the field. Unlike determining speed from a distance, determining temperature has way too many variables. There could easily be interference from background temperature. Beyond that, there's the issue that comes from the conception of using these as a protocol. The average temperature of the human body is 98.6 degrees, or 37 degrees Celsius. The key word, of course, is average. Normal human body temperatures can go as low as 90.
Does he think that that's like is he purposefully doing this? Like, I refuse to believe that he thinks that, like, oh yeah, they think that anything varying away from 98.6 means that there's something wrong with someone.
No, it's not a fever unless it's 100.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's an average for a reason, because it gives them a ballpark.
Fevers are above 100.
Yeah, where like if they say like, oh, you're 97.5, oh well, you're within normal range.
Yeah, but yeah, like I'm pretty sure doctors classify fevers being above 100 degrees.
However, if you're say like 99, they're gonna be like, oh, looks like you're running a slight fever.
Yeah.
They might keep you for observation for that, but
97 degrees, or as high as 99 degrees. If someone with an abnormally low body temperature has a fever, they can register as normal. Meanwhile, someone with a naturally high body
but
temperature
usually when that happens, they have other symptoms.
And also, fevers aren't like a percentage point. Well, not.
I was gonna
point.
say, like,
fevers are usually way higher than just like
a fever literally means like you are several degrees above what you normally are.
Yeah, so you would still be above 100.
Yeah, so if someone was like on average 97.5 degrees, a fever for them would be 99 or 100.
Yeah, not 98.6.
Yeah, like, and slight fever, like, oh my god, it's
be
just
falsely dinged as having a fever when they don't have one. On top of that, you also have an issue with this.
Thermometers don't work like that. They don't ding if you have a fever. They ding when your temperature is taken.
Yeah, it dings when the display comes up.
Yeah.
The test is over, you can remove it.
Yes. Oh my god. Stream. Let's see. The stream is laggy. Oh yeah. Sorry about that if it's laggy. We're kind of using an old computer.
Yeah, this is my computer. I got it in 2017. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I just noticed the comments. Whatever.
We're doing our best.
Tylenol, or acetaminophen, is an over-the-counter medication that is used to treat aches and reduce fever. It can't cure the coronavirus, but it can mask someone having a fever.
That's not their only symptom.
They ask. Does he not know that they ask people if you've taken Tylenol recently? They do that when determining. Oh my gosh! Would you just?
Sorry, that's my.
Maybe this might be why the stream is laggy.
Oh.
Okay, that should fix.
Hopefully.
But does he not realize that, like, normally whenever they're evaluating someone's physical health and everything, like their temperature and everything, they normally ask if you've been taking Tylenol or acetaminophen because that can mask a fever? Like, I just cannot believe somebody can literally willingly display this level of ignorance.
Well, it's called Dunning-Kruger.
It's...
slight... yeah.
Like I said, this is what I just don't understand about Enter. He just... no matter how many people tell him he is wrong, he just continues to double down and triple down and quatillionth down.
So he's being the grouchy Squidward then, huh?
The grouchy Squidward. Everybody's an idiot except for me. That's basically what he's doing. I mean, like, I'm not pompous enough to act like I know everything about everything. There's plenty of things I know nothing about. I don't know anything about plumbing. I don't know anything about how to drive a race car. I don't know anything about how to fix a car. I'm not pompous enough to act like if a mechanic were to like diagnose my car right now.
I don't know anything about like medical science. That's why I defer to him all the time.
Yeah, like I'm not pompous enough to act like if a mechanic were to like diagnose my car with something, to be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. It probably just needs gas.
Your car explodes.
Yeah, just
the way
boom.
You see the wheels.
The entire big
away.
picture must be thought of. Thinking of things from moment to moment has led to multiple...
I love this. He's telling us that the entire picture must be thought of while advocating for everything to just open and continue as it is. Like...
There's no coronavirus in Boston, say.
No self-awareness at all. Yeah, the bigger picture must be looked at. Unless it's inconvenient to my point, in which case...
I don't understand why he's so desperate to go outside when he's basically a recluse.
That's what I don't understand. That's why I think like he's just doing this just to be a contrarian.
He's a recluse.
Out of spite. Because as far as I know, he was just... Yeah, he worked from home before this. He was a full-time YouTuber, you know, despite how much he complains about... like it being a job, but he doesn't really treat it like one. But yeah, he's been working from home before all this. He didn't really go outside. And he can't really complain or claim that he's doing it because he cares about the health of everyone else. Because in his last video, he said that he was becoming a misanthrope.
A what?
Yeah, someone who doesn't really care about people.
Of course.
Misanthropic or misanthropy is like essentially apathy for everyone else.
Oh, screw him then.
Disastrous policies, and we're going to go through every single one of them.
Oh,
where else to start but with the most evil. Evil is the word that I want to use. The most evil thing that has been done in order to curb the spread of COVID. Here's a not-so-fun fact for you. Did you know that 40% of COVID deaths in the United States occurred in nursing homes? That is more than 54,000 deaths. In at least 24 states, a majority of the deaths are linked directly to nursing homes.
Okay,
but
so you believe that people
here.
can die from it then? Like, because in his other video, he was acting like, oh, well, you're likely not going to die if you get it. You know, unless you're elderly.
Who the hell cares about grandma?
Yeah.
A public health policy, shall we? The states of New Jersey, California, and New York required nursing homes to take in COVID patients. New York even had a special rule. As long as the patients were stable, nursing
here's
homes
the thing. Some states actually did do that. I will concede that to him. Some of them did do that where they had some people who had tasted. They essentially tried to do it, have nursing homes double like the areas of the nursing home that they weren't using as a place to keep COVID patients and just keep them separated from the rest of the place, which obviously not a good idea because it could still like that there could be a mishap and then an elderly person could get it. But yeah, I will concede that. And sorry, I saw the people were saying that the stream was still lagging, but
yeah.
Take patients that were diagnosed with the coronavirus, essentially condemning everyone within to die. Connecticut and Massachusetts had certain facilities within it designated specifically for COVID patients. This chart should show you how well that worked out. 64% of COVID deaths in Massachusetts occurred in nursing homes. In Connecticut, it was 73%, almost 3/4 of them. 3 in 4. To put things into raw numbers, 6,000 nursing home patients died in New York on the governor's orders. And we're going to be talking about him, one Mr. Andrew Cuomo, a great deal. He claimed that he was following the CDC.
Again, like I said, I make no promises that we're going to watch this whole thing, but I'm guessing he's not going to mention anything about Greg Abbott's handling of it, who's the Republican Texas governor right now. And he's probably not going to mention anything about the other Republican governors that have, like DeSantis and...
Yeah, he's probably not... Yeah, he's like one of the worst states in the whole U.S.
It's just going to be, but Cuomo and Pelosi and I also want to emphasize, I am not like simping for Pelosi and Cuomo. I don't like them. But I'm saying if he's going to claim that he's a centrist, he's going to have to like complain about them. Like
if he doesn't mention DeSantis, his whole videos is like objective
guidelines and blame Trump for his actions.
On that graph he showed, Florida was also high in terms of people dying at nursing homes. and he's probably not going to mention DeSantis.
Which even Politico rates as mostly false. I want to talk about how evil this man is.
Evil.
Let's start with the fact that he ran a survey on COVID hospitalizations. Looking at the data from 100 New York hospitals, 66% of people surveyed had gotten
the state's
COVID.
lieutenant governor said earlier this year about sacrificing the elderly for Dow
Yeah.
Jones.
I bet he's not going to mention that either. Like.
While following his
we're from
stay-at-home
Texas, by the
orders.
way.
And the second biggest percentage came from nursing homes at 18%. According to his own surveys, 84% of people had contacted COVID following his orders. He seemed surprised by this, but he didn't let this new information change his plans or policies and continue to lock down. So much for following the science and the data.
The illness is death.
Politicians aren't scientists.
What is worse than death?
Somebody commits suicide because they can't pay their bills.
Yeah, but the illness
Here we go
is
again,
maybe
blaming
my death.
coronavirus for
For
capitalism.
capitalism. Yeah, I was going to say that clip that you just showed, that's not a problem with the virus. That's a problem with not giving people financial aid during this crisis.
He hasn't even gotten a stimulus check yet.
Yeah. I never got mine. I still need to contact the IRS. I never got a stimulus thing. My parents did. My parents got theirs. I never got one. I never got that $1,200 ever.
And they think they're supposed to last us forever, just like those chocolate bars from that SpongeBob episode. All they have to do is make them last the rest of our lives.
They said the cure is worse than the illness.
No, it's not.
The illness is death. How can the cure be worse than the illness if the illness is potential death?
Oh my God.
What if the economy failing equals death? Because mental illness, the people stuck at home.
No, it doesn't.
Who the hell cares?
It doesn't equal death. Economic hardship, yes, very bad. Not death. Emotional stress.
Homelessness, again. Do you support basic income then? Do you support government-funded housing?
Yeah, it's like, if you don't have a solution to a problem, shut the hell up about it.
Yeah,
Seriously.
quit complaining. Quit complaining if you're not going to propose an actual counter-solution.
Locked in a house. Very bad. Not death.
What?
Domestic violence on the increase. Very bad. Not death. And not death of
again, I'm not going to
else.
act like what
It's
Colin
not
was
about
saying
me.
is a
It's about
stupid
we.
response.
Get your head
It
about
is, but-
around the we concept. So it's not all about you.
This video interview from him is monstrous. Within it, Cuomo writes off every single possible side effect of the lockdowns. Poverty, domestic abuse, and so on. To every single thing he says, it's not death. If you're beaten to death by your husband, if you starve on the streets, if you become homeless and catch COVID out on the streets, it's okay. It's not death. It's fine by him. Then when suicide is brought up, he says, and I quote, yeah, but illness may be my death as opposed to your death. Watching the video in which he says this leaves me a special kind of speechless. I couldn't watch even the interview in one sitting, even though it's a fairly short video. Let me just say that the "it may be my death" line doesn't convince anyone who sees no value in the life of a soulless slimeball who only cares about himself. In my personal opinion, with this video and this interview,
that's what your entire previous video though was. Is just him being like, oh, well, I want to go outside, and I don't like. It's not as deadly as they act like it is. If you get it, you're probably not going to die. That was literally what he said in his last video. Okay, and he's not clarified that in this one, saying like, oh, well, I was wrong when I said that.
And also, here's something people need to know once and for all. Even if you do get the virus and survive, there's like a very strong chance you're not going to be the same ever again.
Oh yeah, there are people that are still like. They're technically negative for the virus, but they have lung damage. They have damage that's going to last them the rest of their lives.
Honestly, that sounds like a fate worse than death to me, having bad lungs for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And not just that. I think there was another study that said that their bodies have aged 10 years in some cases. So it took 10 years off their life.
So
Cuomo declared himself the most evil man in American politics, and that is a
he just
bar
keeps
to
harping
hit.
on
No,
And we're not even done with this guy yet.
I bet he's not going to mention him
requested
either.
Thousands of ventilators.
Even though Mitch McConnell has been halting stimulus talks.
Yeah, and adjourned the Senate.
Yeah. So we're not getting another stimulus ever.
3,000 of them. It was claimed that he had ventilators in a stockpile. He did, but he claimed that was for the apex. He made a huge deal about how all of these would be needed. In the end, he had enough to start sending to other states. If the state of New York needed thousands of these things, why was he able to send away even hundreds?
I was gonna say, you have to have some backups. Like whenever you're like spending money on food, you don't spend all of your money on food, even if you need food. You're gonna have to have some money left over just in case. Okay, what if my computer breaks down, or what if my car breaks down, or whatever?
Yeah. Only 16
This whole ventilator race was
for a
moved
guy who
anyway,
likes to act like he
as
knows
we've learned,
economics. He doesn't seem to know about preparing for.
Yeah, he's the same type of guy who, if he get evicted, he's like, "Oh, you should have saved money."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, "Oh yeah." So
ventilators actually aren't the most helpful thing in the world to fighting COVID-19.
No,
some hospitals were too quick to put people on ventilators.
God, he's
Unfortunately,
so
certain features of the
stupid.
disease can make mechanical ventilation more harmful than helpful. In the UK, Boris Johnson was put on oxygen and not a ventilator. Moving away from ventilators
Isn't that
meant
what a
one of the
ventilator
reasons the
is?
death rates.
What?
I was gonna say, like, essentially, what a ventilator is it is a device that they have to put people on if their lungs are literally too damaged for them to breathe on their own. You don't always need to be put on a ventilator when you have a lung disease or a problem with your lungs. Sometimes oxygen is all you need. But a ventilator, and again, not every COVID case requires people to be put on ventilators, but a good deal of them do.
Continue to fall. We've known since 2015 that mechanical ventilation leads to long-term effects, which may be the long-term effects that COVID-19 has been blamed for. And we spent the first leg of this race trying to make as many of these things as possible. Remember what I said. Not thinking of the whole picture has been one of the biggest and most continual mistakes.
I'm just gonna call that line just the self-own for the video. Every time he says that, it's just gonna be a self-own.
Honestly, I don't even think he can define what he's even saying. Like,
Yeah.
asked to explain further, just go, duh. Most likely.
Whole pandemic. Andrew Cuomo, after demanding ventilators that he would eventually send away, decided to tax out-of-state essential workers who had come in to help with the coronavirus.
No, he doesn't. He lives. Someone told me the state he lives in, but I cannot remember what it was. I think it was one of the ones that starts with M.
There's like 1,000 of them in the U.S.
I know, but I think that was like all I could
Pandemic.
remember.
You want to know how the media treated this guy after all of this? They wanted him to be president.
Oh yeah, that was
kept
annoying.
teasing
Again,
Cuomo.
I'm not praising Cuomo here. Like, that was annoying as hell, because Cuomo, I'm like, no. Oh, I remember I even said, like, at the time, I'm like, no. I am not a supporter of Andrew Cuomo. I just happen to hate him a lot less than I hate the guy in the White House
But then
right now.
again, Andrew probably thinks that leftists are liberals, so.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's just like that centrist. Like, anybody to the left of centrism is a liberal, just blanket all across the board, regardless of how much of a degree of a leftist you are.
Yeah.
Will run in 2020 or even 2024. There were other politicians in the United States that have and continue to take objectionable actions throughout this entire pandemic.
But you're not going to talk
about
about
them, But it's impossible to talk about them without getting into the general lockdowns.
There you go.
Italy scared
There
the
you
world.
go. He does that shit to seem neutral, like, oh, well, these Republican people in power that I flashed some quick pictures of did things wrong too. But I'm not going to talk about those. I'm just going to say they did things wrong too. I'm not going to talk specifics.
If you're talking about botched
because then I can't demonize the left enough.
Because if you're talking about botched COVID responses, you're not mentioning DeSantis or Abbott. You're a hack. Seriously.
Yeah, it might have been Massachusetts that he lived in.
Oh, cool. That's where I used to live.
Maybe.
World. After the outbreak escaped Wuhan, Italy became the epicenter for a while. As of the end of June, Italy has had about 250,000 coronavirus cases. Many Italians tried to keep continuing with life as normal.
Oh yeah, this bullshit he's doing again with we'll send the police with flamethrowers. Italian mayors lose it at people review. You realize okay, I get that he's on the autism spectrum, but he just does he not know when people are just being hyperbolic?
I mean, I'm on the autism spectrum too, and even I think that's just being hyperbolic. He's like, he can't. He's hiding behind his disability
because they didn't actually send police with flamethrowers and shit. Like, the most I ever saw one of the Italian mayors do was he literally started walking towards this group of people that were on the beach during the pandemic, and he's like, nope, get out of here, go home and play PlayStation or something. You can't be outside right now. Like, I didn't see him carrying a flamethrower.
For those who say that this behavior was unique to the U.S. and we're a special kind of selfish for trying to continue our lives, you're you're wrong. In Italy, people were ticketed for going on general walks. At some point, one mayor even threatened to send in police with flamethrowers.
Yeah,
people have suggested that was a joke.
You've never said anything.
Oh yeah, I love this. He like clarifies that it was a joke, but like it doesn't excuse it or whatever.
Threatened to send in police with flamethrowers. People have suggested that was a joke, but considering the situation, I don't think that could have possibly been considered a joke. Cultural barrier or not.
I don't think it was a joke. More, it's just something said out of frustration.
Yeah, like I've been frustrated and been hyperbolic before. Like reminds me of that part in the movie Freaky Friday when she gets her door taken away and she tells her mom, "If you do not give me my door back right now, I will kill myself." And it's like she's not actually gonna do that.
Telling people public safety orders during a pandemic is a terrible place to have a joke. The rest of the world did not want to become the next Italy. It almost became a meme. If we don't do X, Y, or Z, in 2 weeks we will look like Italy. Here in the United States, though,
now we'll look like America. Now we're the poster child for how to not handle a pandemic.
Was looking like it would be. On March 19th, California became the first state to lock down. Let's talk about some misconceptions of the lockdowns, because the plot has been lost entirely. The slogan for the lockdowns when they were first sold to us was flatten the curve. You don't hear this much anymore because of something called the goal creep. You don't hear
No, we're not doing this again. We're not doing the moving the goalpost bullshit again. That is not moving the goalposts. Moving the goalposts is a debate term. It is a term used for when someone, when their argument suddenly becomes inconvenient, they quote unquote move the goalposts and start blaming it on something else, essentially. They keep escalating the issue so that a solution, kind of like what he's doing, where like, you name a solution and then he just counters it with some inane bullshit that he made up.
Not to mention
that's moving the goalpost.
Not to mention the curve isn't even flattened anymore anyway, because his original statement is like, "Oh, we gotta flatten the curve." Well, it's like way higher than it ever was.
Yeah, and it's just like I love how he calls that moving the goalpost. Like that's the equivalent of like a little kid asking their parent one day if they could go to the park. And it's like, "Oh, sure, sweetie, just let me finish my work first. We'll go in a couple of hours." A couple of hours passes. All of a sudden, thunderstorm starts. "Sorry, sweetie, we'll have to go another day. It's raining outside." "But just why are you moving the goalpost? I want to go outside." That's enter. That's enter right there.
The curve anymore because no one actually wants to flatten the curve anymore. Do you know what
No. We want to flatten the curve. We just can't with idiots like you spewing misinformation out of your whore mouth.
Of the lockdowns were. Actually, let me rephrase that question. How many cases of COVID was locking down meant to prevent? If you answered anything other than zero, you are wrong. The lockdowns were never meant to prevent a single case of COVID. Purpose of lockdowns was not to prevent coronavirus cases.
You're so fucking stupid. And I had plenty of people in my comments saying that I was too mean in my bitch. If you thought I was mean in that video, oh man, don't watch anymore because I am not. I'm gonna insult him because this fucker don't deserve my kindness. This guy don't deserve my kindness. But yeah, he just. Oh my god, like it was meant to prevent shit, and also.
Does he understand what flattening the curve actually means?
Here's the thing. Even if it, quote-unquote, wasn't, it's still bad if hospitals were to get overwhelmed. More people would still die, including dying of not COVID, but other illnesses that could have been treated, but they couldn't because the hospitals were overwhelmed. That's still bad. He's acting like it was totally pointless to, like...
Well, that meant it worked then.
Yeah, like.
Although now we're at risk of having this happening again because.
Yeah, it's just
because. But to stop them from happening all at once. I know people have lost this goal because they're being surprised that cases are going up now that the lockdowns are ending. That was always supposed to happen.
No, no, it wasn't because extra measures were supposed to be taken after the lockdowns were
never
lifted.
Implemented.
Yeah, such as continued social distancing, face masks, and minimum capacity indoors.
And also like contact tracing and other
contact tracing as well, yes. Either. That was taking into account that, we'll be behaving differently after we open everything back up. Because here's the thing, like, you know, like I'm about to mention Kyle Kalinske. I know that like he's kind of an idiot in certain regards, but I do agree with him when he said that like we likely could have just opened everything back up, and as long as everybody wore a mask and socially distanced and just minimum capacity in businesses and stuff, we probably would have had very minimal spread. And I actually agree with that, considering places like Japan did that.
South Korea and Taiwan and other places in Eastern Asia.
Yeah, it's just like...
The reason that the states that didn't lock down aren't seeing the spikes that the states that are reopening are seeing. The idea was that our hospital infrastructure was going to be overwhelmed.
Like, look at Florida,
look at Texas right now. Oh my God, dude. Like, I mean, we technically did lock down, but then we were like, fuck it, it's too hard. And then we just gave up.
With all the cases at once, we would spread it over weeks, not months. Weeks. Flattening the curve was supposed to be over the course of 15 days and end roughly on April 1st.
Again, that was taking into account that everyone would be following the lockdown and not spreading misinformation about how, oh, well, it doesn't actually work. It's just about control.
Communism.
Everything I don't like is communism or socialism.
Fool's Day prank that was. At the same time, experts did claim that we needed to lock down for several more weeks. Once again, though, weeks, not months. At some point, stopping everyone from getting the virus all at once became stopping people from getting the virus.
And I love how he keeps, like, you know, he's, to go back to his whole moving the goalposts bullshit, like, they wouldn't have to, quote-unquote, keep, you know, moving the days around and shit if idiots like you would just fucking listen to them and just do what you're told for just a few days.
I mean, as Farron Cousin said, the people who refuse to wear a mask are like the kids in elementary school who keep on getting time taken off of recess.
I've continued to use that comparison. Yeah, it's like when you were in like elementary school and middle school, and you had to go you wanted to go outside for recess, but the teacher, because the class was being usually it was like at first it was like the entire class was like being too loud or something. It's like okay, like so the teacher would say, okay, you guys need to be quiet for 5 minutes and then I'll take you for recess because you guys have been way too loud for like the last hour, and then you had like those like 5 kids that would just continue to continue to test the teacher's patience, and continue to get time added on by the teacher to the point where like you completely missed recess entirely because they just wouldn't stop fucking talking. That's what this is. That's why it keeps going on and on, because you won't listen.
He never stopped and asked why this is going on.
Because he doesn't want to actually know why. He just wants to complain. Like, that's the thing. He's a critic in that all he wants to do is complain. He doesn't actually want to analyze what he's talking about, whether real life or fiction. He just wants to complain. He just wants to find shit to complain about and whine and bitch and moan and not offer any like counter solution or how to like make something better or whatever. Just complain. He's become that much of a cynic.
More like a nihilist, to be honest.
Honestly, yeah.
Altogether. If you lost count, we're between 4 and 5 months in. It's worth noting that every single lockdown order in the United States was an executive order issued by state governor without any legislative oversight.
Yeah, there's no leadership in Washington right now.
Not to mention, there wasn't enough time. This was an emergency. There wasn't enough time to convene state houses.
There was no time
to debate and vote on a measure.
Yeah, it was like this is an emergency. We need to do something now.
Yeah.
Oversight. To be fair, most other countries did have some kind of lockdown, with the notable exception of Sweden. Apparently, it's against the Constitution. It's against the American.
Talk about the Swedish model. Yay! Yay! Oh my God! I'm glad we got to get to this because funny story about Sweden. It's been criticized heavily by other countries like it, such as Denmark and Norway. Because they did take measures. Unlike Sweden, they took measures. They have seen significantly less deaths and cases compared to Sweden's. And also, I've talked to some people from Sweden, and they said a lot of people have actually criticized the Swedish government in Sweden because essentially what their measures did. Because here's the thing. Here's why Sweden essentially decided not to really do much, because they have essentially a different culture compared to places like America. Because of their culture, they were technically kind of socially distancing anyway.
it's a very spread out state.
Yeah, because they're spread out and everything. And they figured, okay, well, we're technically doing that already, so do we really need to do anything extra? The answer was yes, you do need to do some things extra. And essentially, what people in Sweden criticized the government for was essentially they said, by not taking extra measures, you essentially threw the elderly and the immunocompromised to the wolves. And that's what made up a lot of their deaths, were elderly and immunocompromised people. So idiots like Enter continuing to tout the Swedish model as
him, like
here's what we actually should have done. It's like no, you're talking out of your ass right now.
Constitution as well to prevent freedom of assembly, but that's neither here nor there. We should be talking about the effectiveness of the lockdowns before we talk about the legal or ethical ramifications, right? I mean, the best time to do that would have been before we tried these policies, but the second best time is now, I suppose. Study after study shows that lockdowns didn't work what they eventually became.
Not showing. Is that? I'm wondering. Is that a peer-reviewed article? Enter. Do you know what a peer-reviewed article is?
Yeah. Yeah, I only see one name on that one.
Yeah, like are any of those sources peer-reviewed? Do you know what peer-reviewed means?
Of course not.
Of course not. He didn't go to college for like the ridiculous.
Preventing the virus entirely. Sweden's COVID death count has been approaching zero. They were heavily criticized for not locking down all throughout spring, but in a few years it may look like what everyone else did.
I also love that he also doesn't take into account that they have socialized medicine, which he's argued against. That also helps reduce the number of cases and deaths as well, because since people aren't afraid of going bankrupt by going to the hospital, people can go to the hospital when they feel sick and they can realize, oh shit, this guy's got COVID. Maybe we should track down whoever he's been in contact with and quarantine them. Because that's part of why ours spread so much. You had people that continued to go to work even though they were sick with COVID, not realizing they were sick with COVID, thinking, oh, it's probably just a cold or something.
It has a long incubation period.
Yeah, and when you show symptoms early on, it's usually kind of mild symptoms. It's like, oh, I probably just have a cold or something. And so, yeah, they went to work because it's like, well, I have to pay to go to the doctor, and I don't want to have to pay, so I'm just going to tough it out. And that's why it spreads.
Delaying the inevitable. In the United States, several states such as Florida, Texas, and Arizona have been criticized for opening up too early.
Yes,
this ignores the 9 states that didn't lock down whatsoever and didn't see explosive growth.
Funny that they're doing the worst out of all 50 states right now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Why would you cite the worst state right now as an example?
Because he's an idiot who's talking out of his ass, who just wants to complain. He doesn't actually want to change anyone's mind or doesn't actually want to, come up with any counter solutions. He just wants to complain. That's it.
The virus. Many states saw their peak before the lockdowns were enacted at all.
Oh yeah, and it's peaking again.
The incubation period afterwards.
It's peaking again.
And the lockdowns were doomed to fail from the start.
They would fail for the start because nobody would fucking follow them and listen like you.
What about the practicality of their measures? Starting with curfews, I suppose. Many states imposed curfews, saying that people couldn't be outside after a particular hour. The logic doesn't hold up. There is nothing saying it's more
No. Actually, the logic does hold up. As research has shown, heat makes the virus less likely to spread or decreases the chance of it spreading because heat can kill the virus. It doesn't obviously the sunlight heat, the heat outside, it's not going to completely kill the virus. It can still spread outside and shit, but it could die before it can spread very far, essentially. At night, it's colder. The virus can thrive in cold environments.
Not to mention, what the hell kind of graph is this?
That's not a graph. And he criticized. Oh my god! I just remember he criticized the fucking the lockdown, the flattening the curve graph in his original video, saying it was really misleading. And it's like, no, it's not.
Just put a bunch of dots on screen without any context behind them.
I really hope that he made this and that he didn't actually find this on some
no context whatsoever.
Yeah, this. I would have honestly though. Holy shit! I kind of wish he had gone to college and pulled this kind of shit on writing papers and shit, because that would have been hilarious. Oh my god! If I was a professor and grading a paper and I saw that, I'd be like, first off, I would laugh in the person's face. I would wait to laugh at the person's face, and then I'd give them an F on the spot and say, yeah, that's cute. That's real cute. That's funny.
You think I'm stupid?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Likely to spread the virus at night than it is during the day. In fact, like many of the other methods, this could have a backlash effect. If you force people who would have been out at night into shorter and shorter hours, it crowds more traffic into less time, which increases the chance for infection. Only having certain stores open also has a similar effect.
What the hell is this?
Oh my God, dude. Do you think that this makes your argument work more? Stop. Oh my God, stop.
Is this a child's drawing? My God.
Did you do that yourself? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, this, I don't know how to respond. Like,
my God. Looks like a child's drawing.
Of those 25 people, only one of them has COVID. With 5 different stores, they end up infecting only the 5 people in the store that they go to. When you've crammed them all into one store, that creates 25 new cases, not 5. It can also get people to travel around more if they start looking for a store that is still open, or a store that is still allowed to sell the product that they are currently looking for. So let's talk about the costs of the lockdown.
That's why you wear a mask, bitch.
Yep.
Because of the media reporting,
Can't wait to get to that. Like, okay, so I will make a promise. I'm not gonna stop watching the video until we get to him whining about masks.
Is he gonna do it?
Oh yeah, he does. Because here's the thing. I didn't watch the whole video the first time. I stopped like after the first 5 minutes, and then because he was so nice to leave the script to the video, so you could just skim through it. And I did skim through it, and I'm like, yeah, he complains about masks.
Okay.
Type that anti-lockdown people just want haircuts, or they want to sacrifice grandma
Again,
for the stock
I will
market.
bring up the photos I showed from the protests in my response video, showing the people with the "I want a haircut" protest signs. And it's just like, yeah, there were some literally making that
seriously
argument,
as someone who
it's
does
not.
Yeah, it was literally someone holding up a sign saying that.
You can act like people were strawmanning all you want, but
there was some lady literally with a sign that said, "I want a
with
haircut."
a big shit-eating grin, dude. It's like, I want a haircut. First world problems.
Wait, what did you do?
Shit.
All right.
That's okay. Live, everybody. That's
Come
okay. It saved my place. Don't worry.
Doesn't fall into one of those straw man arguments. I will take you seriously as someone who
Dude, you can't say that's a straw man argument if plenty of people were actually doing it.
Yeah.
Like, it really is like he just ignores sources that show him he's wrong. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, those anti-lockdown protesters with those signs didn't exist.
genuine knowledge and information. Let's also keep in mind that it may take years before we truly find out the actual cost of our lockdown policies. Not just in economic terms, but in terms of human suffering and human deaths.
Again, I'm gonna go off on the whole, like, him claiming that, like, oh, we're not looking at the bigger picture. You also aren't, because guess what? Opening things up and letting, just for the sake of the economy, because, oh, well, we need to get local businesses back open. Yeah, guess what? People can't work if they're sick or dead.
Not to mention,
and then the economy drops again.
Not to mention, you can't force people to go to, like, movie theaters if they're afraid to.
Oh yeah, because they've reopened a bunch of movie theaters and shit. People aren't going. Not very many people are going to them. There's still, of course, there are some people that are going to them.
They're idiots.
But not very many people are going because, yeah, I'm not gonna risk getting a deadly virus just to watch Tenet.
Let's
insert Picard facepalm.
Yes, human deaths. People have and will continue to die because of the lockdown policies.
What about the people who are dying of COVID?
Start. How about the medical establishments we were trying to save with the lockdowns? Let's start with elective surgery. Elective surgery is a terrible name, by the way. It conjures up visions of plastic surgery, like a nose job, but it actually includes things like stage 3 cancer surgeries. And elective surgery is simply any
Unfortunately,
surgery.
they're called elective surgeries in America, essentially because you have to pay to get them. And you can choose to not pay, but that also means you're not going to get it.
No self-awareness whatsoever.
Yep.
That you don't need to have
It also
done.
technically means that the reason why it's called elective surgery is because, well, the opposite of an elective surgery essentially is an urgent surgery. Like, you need it now or you are going to die or suffer, like, really long-term damage. And elective surgery is like, okay, we got kind of a backlog, but thankfully your condition isn't too serious. You can wait a few days, so we'll schedule you here or whatever.
Right here and now, i.e. you elect to have it.
Yep.
In the UK alone, 35,000 cancer deaths may come about because of delayed diagnoses. And I want to have an aside about the media reporting right now. A lot of these media reports
Can you just
say...
stay on point for a single minute?
I'm going to criticize the media reporting, except for these media articles that I'm actually showing. They're fine. They're fine.
Wait, what?
Oh my gosh, I keep doing it.
It's kind of like blaming the dog for farting when we all know that he didn't do it. Also in the UK, a backlog of surgeries threatens to overwhelm their hospital services. Isn't it ironic? In an attempt to stop hospitals from being overwhelmed, we created a system where...
Because if we had just followed the lockdown so that people weren't actually getting the virus, those surgeries could still continue. Those treatments that were already scheduled and that needed to be scheduled, the non-COVID related shit, that could still continue. If we just continue to follow the lockdown. Because guess what? When following the lockdown, less people are getting it. Less people are getting it. Less people are giving it to others. And the hospitals aren't getting overwhelmed so they can continue their other treatments for other stuff as normal. I just don't know how to explain this to somebody who isn't going to...
Oh, look.
You know, that mirrors it with the slow explosion, yeah. That really is Mr. Andrews' plan.
I also missed that one too.
Let's see. Also, in your video, yeah, for showing that. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That pissed me off that he didn't show that. Of course. Yeah. He wants to act like that didn't happen either. Yeah. The protest, the anti-lockdown protest was literally called by the people who organized them Operation Gridlock because they were blocking the entrance to hospitals, and he's on their side. Like, he's speaking uncritically of them. Oh, no. They're just practicing their American right to free speech.
Oh, I bet that he also approved of that plot to kidnap Whitmer, too.
Oh, I would love to, ask him about... Like I said, if my channel were bigger, I would honestly challenge him to, a debate or something, because I would want to ask him those hard questions.
Right.
People held off going to the doctors when they desperately should have. So months' worth of cases will all come in at once.
Again, people were doing that before this... usually because they couldn't afford to go to the doctor.
Because once again, he's blaming the problems. The virus exposed these problems.
Yeah,
and it
exacerbated them. The problems existed before the virus essentially shone spotlights, big old spotlights.
Yeah, chickens came home to roost.
Yeah.
Just cancer in one country. You want to add dentistry to that? An alarming number of people have attempted to do it themselves with wire cutters and super glue.
Again,
dentistry is
doing it before this as well. There were plenty of people. There was a story I remember reading on back when I did radio in college. We would read stories and stuff on the radio, and I remember there was one about a woman whose son, I think he was a teenager, accidentally shot himself. He accidentally shot himself in the leg with a gun because the safety wasn't on. And instead of taking him to the hospital because they did not have health insurance and she could not afford to take him to the hospital, she looked up on WebMD how to treat a gunshot wound. This was this was years before this pandemic. So don't act like shit like this started happening during just because of the pandemic. This was happening way before the pandemic as well. People were doing this before the pandemic.
Definitely one of the things that should have never been closed, because it's going to become a huge problem in the coming months and years. Because if there's a type of treatment you do not want to delay, it's a trip to the dentist.
I love how he's talking about this when he doesn't brush his teeth. And that's not me making an ad hominem attack. He has admitted in, which you can't see anymore because he deleted all his DeviantArt journals, but I think people have made screen caps. You can't find them. But he's admitted he doesn't brush his teeth because he doesn't like the taste of mint. So I love how he's lecturing us on this when he lives off of a diet of soda and he doesn't brush his teeth. Which I don't care if you're gonna drink nothing but soda all day. You gotta at least brush your teeth. That's nasty.
Yeah.
That is nasty if you don't brush your teeth.
All right.
Bad problems can easily become worse. A toothache untreated becomes a root canal.
Root canals are self-awareness.
Untreated can lead to an abscessed tooth that has to be removed. You know what doesn't help? In the United States, elective surgeries are a major part of hospitals' business models.
Are you going to criticize capitalized medicine then?
Their main source of profit.
Hospitals aren't supposed
to be a business. That's the problem. It's unethical to make a healthcare service a business, a for-profit system. It is unethical. I'm sure that's a word you don't know. I'm sure that's a word that's not in your vocabulary.
I guess he's trying to strive to be like Ash from Alien, I guess.
Oh yeah, the whole like unclouded by conscience or delusions of morality.
Yeah.
Has vanished. Many doctors are being laid off and furloughed during a pandemic. Because of our decisions, doctors are having benefits reduced and are
because of no. Let's make this. This is your decision. This is people like you's decision, making it harder for the rest of us that just want this to end as soon as possible, but still want to try and
not to mention, if we had socialized medicine, you wouldn't have to worry about doctors getting laid off or furloughed.
Exactly, because they'd be getting paid by the government. They'd be getting paid through taxes. Like, oh my God.
It's like...
being retired or laid off. In the United States, 60,000 family practices have closed their doors. I need to keep reminding you this. Locking down was a practice that was meant to save hospitals and medical staff from being overwhelmed. And we've done so well that hospitals are being closed down. And we're not even done with the medical consequences of this. Vaccine programs have been interrupted.
Oh, yay, we're going to talk about vaccines now. Yay.
Oh, God,
58 countries because of the lockdowns. That's 80 million infants who are no longer vaccinated from measles or polio, as well as a bunch of other routine vaccines, like mumps and rubella. And the kicker is that we were pretty close to getting rid of polio altogether. In terms of mental health, calls to suicide hotlines have seen a 900% rise. I'm sorry, that's an exaggeration.
It's been pretty
the real
rough
number
year all around.
I was going to say, it's not just COVID that's leading people to rise in depression. Like I get that you've been spared for most of like the consequences of this presidency the past 4 years because, you know, you just live in your bubble inside in your grandma's house, making videos and shit. So you've probably been spared like the misery that people like us have had to endure, but it's been quite a fucking 4 years.
Yeah.
Is 891%, or basically 900%. So, you know how when your friends or even a random stranger says that he's depressed due to the ongoing lockdown measures, and you just throw him a suicide hotline number? Yeah, you're not helping at all. Suicide hotlines have been too overwhelmed to...
Go fuck yourself.
Fuck off. Holy shit, dude. Fuck right off.
Do anything. Actual suicides are expected to rise in a similar fashion as well.
Again, depression was a problem before the pandemic as well that we weren't dealing with at all. You want to look up mental health statistics in America because I can pull you up some numbers that we weren't dealing with mental health very well before this.
Yeah.
Again, he just keeps doing this. He keeps blaming shit that was already in existence.
Because guess what? I had depression before COVID was a thing.
I still have depression, and I still need to take medication for it.
Storm to create mental health problems. First of all, there's a storm of stress and background anxiety due to the pandemic. Then you take them away from their jobs. Doing nothing like that is a way that depressive thoughts fester. Then you end up isolating these people away from any friends or family.
The internet exists, you...
I don't know if you know this, dude, but the internet exists. It's this thing you upload the video to.
I
get that, like, face-to-face interactions, those are important, and those are actually significantly more beneficial than socializing through the internet, but socializing through the internet's better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather
webcams exist.
I'd rather see people in person, but it's like I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah,
imagine this happened like 40 years ago.
Like during the pandemic, like I've messaged plenty of friends, some of whom I had forgotten to reach out to before this happened, and this kind of gave me an excuse, like, oh hey, I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah.
But, oh my god.
Guilty for being a walking biohazard. Don't let them go outside. And make sure you end in-person therapy. It's too risky. If there is no major spike in...
During the pandemic,
they're still doing therapy.
I kept in contact with my therapist back in Massachusetts via Zoom.
Yeah. Suicide from the human organized lockdowns. It will literally redefine what we know about depression. It's also worth noting that gun sales have been on the rise, especially among first-time buyers.
Gun sales have been on the rise for years.
Not to mention, with all the political stuff this year, that's another reason.
Yeah,
it's not solely because of COVID.
He's attributing causation where other factors exist.
mean,
if you're feeling depressed, I'd give you plenty of advice on what to do to help take care of it. But it involves civil disobedience and breaking social distancing guidelines. And that could get this video taken down from YouTube. Childhood development is something else that's going to be of consequence. Children just can't put it off for months at a time. We may have a generation of socially stuck...
Because Trump said that kids are practically immune.
Youth, crippled by anxiety disorders. Children who have trouble making connections with other people often turn to violence or drugs later in life. And that's not even mentioning education. Throughout the world, education programs have been interrupted. And it's actually a great deal of controversy right now determining whether they should start up again in the fall. People argue that Zoom-style education is perfectly acceptable. Distance learning has repeatedly shown throughout the entire crisis...
And again, here's the thing. I can't remember which YouTube. I think it was actually someone on Sam Cedar. The Majority Report with Sam Cedar. But they said what essentially should have been done was make like some sort of like exam or something to give to kids to sort of essentially identify what types of learners they are. Like, do they do better with in-person teaching, or can they learn online? Because some kids can learn online, sometimes better than in person. But some kids they can't learn unless they're in person. Their brain works differently. But yeah, what should have been done was like give out these exams or whatever like that could determine on average what type of learner that a kid is, and then through the school district, and once the school district gets those results, assign certain kids based on the results from the exam online classes. Like, okay, you've been identified as an online learner, you will take online classes, but for those who were identified as in-person learners, they could be put in a classroom in a school that was essentially like held at minimized capacity. Yes, because I think they determined like if you had come up with like a way to reduce the classroom size like 10 students per classroom or something or less, you could have seen, and as long as you like continue to like have them wear masks and everything, you could have had like some schools open and everything. And I think that would have been a good solution, like if they had just
what point did I make?
Oh yeah. What was the point? I'll wait for them to reply back. But if they had just like identified like the different kids learning different ways, I think that's what could have enabled the schools to still open with like added guidelines and stuff, where some kids were doing online learning because they were determined that they could still learn that way, and then others were still doing in-person learning. Like I think they also suggested on the Majority Report, they probably could have just had, even without the like exam or whatever, they probably could have just had high school students only have online learning, and then send the send elementary students to the high school buildings at minimized capacity, to spread those classes out throughout other buildings that aren't being used.
That are part of the district.
Yeah, that are still part of the district. That could have worked. But again, that's me. I see.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but oh my God. It's but that's me like coming up with alternate solutions, which Enter seems unwilling to do.
Yeah, he just wants to complain.
That it is a failure of an idea. In some school environments, 4 in 10 students have showed up for class 2 or less days per week. Missing out on education is well documented to hurt people drastically later in life. In the realm of mental health, let's go over some things that we used to know. Some people are forced to live and stay by themselves during the lockdown, completely alone. In places like New York, some apartments are about the size of prison cells. Solitary confinement has been deemed torture.
That's not solitary confinement.
That's not solitary confinement, dude.
That's legitimately...
do you know what solitary confinement is?
Like, that is legit.
You realize in solitary confinement, you don't have a TV, you don't have a game system, you don't have a computer, you don't have a
social
phone.
media.
Yeah, you don't have a phone. Solitary confinement is not being like if I was alone in this apartment right now, yeah, I'd like find that less preferable than if I was with roommates and stuff. But I would acknowledge that it's like, this isn't solitary confinement.
Not
I can go online and talk to people.
Not to mention this, you're fucking nervy has comparing it to solitary, which is like actual human rights abuses.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
As smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And if you're stressed about the world, that does even more to your mortality. Human beings are a social species.
Yes,
preventing people from seeing each other is...
We have other ways to socialize besides in person.
I mean, it's 2020. Like, have you forgotten? Like,
I mean, he made a similar point in his original video where he said that it's a good that toys and games have been deemed non-essential and can't be purchased. It's like, you do realize online storefronts still exist.
Not to mention all the stuff that already does exist.
Yeah. And it's just like,
like there's like 100 years worth of films made, and it's like you're saying that only new stuff counts.
He's just so freaking ridiculous.
Like over the last couple of months, like
they're still making freaking movies and shit anyway.
Yeah, and he's been showing me a ton of new movies. Well, new to me.
Some of them
are really old.
Yeah, some of them are from like...
Yeah, like I've never seen them before, and it's a new experience, despite the fact that some of these movies are kind of old. Like I saw Alien for the first time a few weeks ago.
It's first world problems. What he's listing is just first world problems. It's like, oh man, no new entertainment is being made.
Not to mention, social media exists.
Yeah. First world problems.
It's not just inhumane, it is literally inhuman. You see, maybe you've heard of this thing called oxytocin. It's a hormone in our brain that makes us feel good when we are physically close to each other. Not talking through a screen, that doesn't do jack shit for it. But in the same...
In-person socialization is important and everything, and physical affection is also important and everything. But... one, there's a way to do that without risking yourself. Like, if you're in an apartment, for example, where people are socially distancing, you're only going out when you need to, you're wearing a mask and everything. For the most part, you can still physically interact with those people and have a decreased chance of getting the virus, as opposed to just hugging a random stranger off the street.
Yeah.
Like...
physical space. It's not to be confused with oxycodone. Oxycodone is a painkiller
that was a smooth transition. Yeah.
It's often abused by people who try to get high, and it's been an epidemic of its own for several years now. I bring this up because in times of intense stress, when people have nothing better to do, they often turn to addictions. And because alcohol is apparently an essential product, use of it is predictably on the rise. Both not having a job and being addicted to something are both direct causal links to abuse.
This is capitalism's fault.
I was gonna say.
And wouldn't you know, like suicide calls being on the rise, domestic abuse calls have also been on the rise. The best thing that you could possibly argue for the lockdowns is that we are sacrificing some lives for the lives of others.
And in that case, make domestic abuse better or worse? Because...
And I love how he's arguing that like the lockdowns are sacrificing some people to save others. It's like, dude, you're arguing the same thing by doing nothing.
Yeah, but also it's like domestic abuse is like a problem that's independent of the virus. And to me, it happened anyway.
And to me, his is even worse. His argument of like which people to sacrifice is even worse because it's kind of eugenicsy. Because he's essentially saying sacrifice the old and immunocompromised to save everyone else, to save the economy and shit. Yeah. And it's like, and I know that like he would probably get really offended if I said that was eugenicsy. It's like, well, you're not saying it explicitly, but that's what you're implying.
It's in the vein of eugenics.
Yeah.
We as a society have failed the basic concept of triage. Let me ask you this. Between an 80-year-old man and a 17-year-old boy, which one do you think gets priority when it comes to a replacement heart? Believe it or not, there are people whose job it is to make decisions like this, and it is a very difficult job that I wouldn't envy ever.
That Republicans said would be under Obamacare, but they're actually under Trump. Interesting.
Victims of COVID-19 are primarily elderly, with the highest risk of death being those above 70.
Now you care about the elderly people that are affected by COVID. I thought it was a virus that if you went outside, you probably weren't going to get it. That's what you said in your last video.
When you put things mathematically, a 17-year-old who misses a cancer diagnosis and dies weighs differently than a 7-year-old man who gets COVID and dies. It sounds horrible, which is why triage is done by professionals who are able to learn to put their emotions aside when making public health decisions.
That's not how that works.
Triage is like a literal it's like a manual to read. It's like it says if like you're at risk of dying right now, they get priority, and it goes from there.
And it's not and it's not separating emotional intelligence. Let me go off on a tangent about this. There's a thing called emotional intelligence, which people like enter don't know a thing about. So emotional intelligence is essentially bedside manner. Like that's a good way to think of it. It's like, yeah, how do I give them the facts while being sensitive and not being a dick about the facts or whatever? How do I tell them that, like, they are a terminal cancer patient that only has a few days left to live without just being cold and being like, oh, by the way, you only have 5 days to live. Happy birthday. But that's not what triage shit does. Because that is a hard job. Like, that is a very hard job that I would not want. But they don't put their emotions aside.
It's a specific guideline that's
they essentially evaluate. They do what essentially Alan Turing and his team had to do in that movie that I showed you, The Imitation Game, where they're evaluating how much information to let go when seeing which attacks to stop, which people to save and shit, because they couldn't let the Nazis know that they had figured out the Enigma code. And so it's not like, oh, they're not putting their emotions aside. Like,
if we can just say one,
and they wouldn't have to do that if you idiots had just stayed put for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And a lot of other slogans, as if our decisions aren't going to lead to any disaster or death on their own. These lockdowns will and have been leading to death of their own and other forms
and
of
doing
human
nothing
misery.
would lead to death on their own too. Your point? Your point.
Not to mention the higher amounts
This GIF was
deaths.
extremely popular in the coronavirus subreddit.
Oh God, now what?
Okay, what the hell is this? Okay, I'm guessing.
What?
I doubt it would be as appealing if it was this person.
What the hell was that?
I mean, it's still spreading, dude.
Did he share somebody's DeviantArt project or something?
I think he shared his own DeviantArt.
Well, it says.
It says that.
Sue or whatever.
Yeah. But holy
This person blew his brains out. This person died of a missed cancer diagnosis. This person was killed by her husband. Because what you have asked for with these
domestic violence was already an issue before this.
Entails
does he not
exactly
know how
that.
domestic violence works?
It might not
my
have
mother
if
was
this
a
lasted
victim
for
of it, and it would have gone the same way regardless of whether or not we were locked down.
Being so ridiculous.
15 days as promised, but in months, yes, these are the real tangible effects of our lockdown experiment. And I'm not done either. This is only if you care about your own country. According to the UN, over 135 million people across the world are going to face famines because of our actions. 300,000 people could starve to death per day.
Starvation was an issue before this.
Yeah.
Again. Month period. People have often asked me if I wanted to die drowning in my own fluids when I take issue with lockdown measures or other measures used
you're
to
still
curb
allowed to go
the-
out and get food.
Yeah, you can go get food. Like, I can go down the street to the convenience store, get some chips and shit.
Spread of coronavirus. I would prefer that vastly to starving to death. Generally
Are
speaking,
you sure about
from
that?
So you're gonna
diagnosis
starve to death now. He's being hyperbolic. Like, I love how he accuses us of strawmanning his arguments when it's like, dude, you're literally saying we want you to just stay put, not going out for any reason. No, we're saying stay put, don't go out unless you absolutely need to, such as to get food and shit. Don't go out for shit like haircuts. Don't go out for shit like the release of a gaming console. Just go out and get, like, your necessities.
Yeah.
Go out to get toilet paper. Go out to get groceries.
Because guess what? Like, during the lockdowns, people are still allowed to go out to get food.
Don't go to bars. Don't go to clubs. Like, he keeps claiming that we're strawmanning.
Well,
and it's like, dude, you've been strawmanning the whole freaking time.
Look. You added a popular GIF on Reddit. Of course he did.
Than COVID takes about
Source
14 days.
me.
It takes your average adult twice as long to starve to death while your body eats itself. It's a painful and horrible way to go.
Yeah,
In the
no
United
one's
States,
arguing
food
that.
banks are stressed and overwhelmed. Several
That's
million children have
capitalism's
provided-
fault.
Food banks are overwhelmed because people are unemployed.
If we did a freaking UBI, this wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
But the government doesn't want to spend a dime on people who are making less than $1
lunches
billion
in the
a
United
year.
States to be able to eat, which they no longer have access to. This isn't a problem that you can get out by printing more money. The issue
Yes, it
isn't
can.
that-
The U.S. controls its own currency.
Explain Germany. Explain all these other
to mention-
countries with UBI whose economies haven't collapsed.
Not to mention the U.S. controls its own currency. We are a fiat currency. We can print as much money as we want, and hyperinflation is not a risk.
Yep. Love how people like him seem to forget that.
I mean, I'm a socialist, and even I know more about economics than he does.
Of course you do. Like, because you've at least spent a little bit of time at college. He's had zero time at college.
Yeah, zero for like.
I don't like to use college as like a talking point or whatever, but like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, I'm sorry if you're gonna like lecture me on this and you have no idea. You clearly have no idea what you're talking about. You're using fake ass sources. I'm going to use that as a talking point.
Yeah.
People can't afford this free food. The issue is that people aren't working to produce it. Yeah, we have a surplus of food, and we're nearing the end of it. And of course, in the next couple of months, 28 million people will become homeless.
Yeah. Again, capitalism. No state-mandated housing, no affordable rent, no rent relief, no stimulus, nothing, no aid. And again, you're not arguing for anything like that.
Here's
you're
the
not.
Thing. Landlords don't have to evict people right now.
Yep.
Sure, you can delay the rent again, but as soon as that timer wears off, the landlords will be asking for the back rent that was missed, because they need to pay taxes on the property. If they can't pay the taxes on the property...
Well, that's not my fucking problem. Maybe they shouldn't have bought so many properties to begin with.
Yeah. Get a real job.
Yeah, that's not my problem.
The cities that have required rent freezes will be in even worse shape. And a lot of people aren't prepared to pay back rent because CARES is going to expire at the end of July. And people who are on unemployment right now will be $600 short per week. You see, when people talk about the economy, they mean they don't want 28 million people to be homeless. It's a really simple solution to prevent this problem, though. Let people work. This is all that has to be done.
Let people work.
UBI.
Holy shit, dude! I like. Oh my god! I know this comparison is gonna sound gauche, but why don't you just put it blunt and say work makes people free?
I wouldn't be surprised if he accidentally said that before. He's not stupid.
Work makes them free, and we spread that freedom far and wide.
Literally any point in time. I am beyond confident that the lockdowns of 2020 will go down in history as possibly
like let people work. It's like, what work have you been fucking doing? You've been making fucking bullshit YouTube videos that like people haven't even been fucking watching. Like his viewership has been down significantly since he started doing this shit.
And once again, what the hell is he even complaining about? He hasn't fucking
You already have a job.
And he hasn't made, he doesn't really have that much work to do. And it's like, what?
And the reason I'm asking that is not because I don't care about like other people who are unemployed and shit. No, I do. I'm saying because the way he's acting, he clearly doesn't care about other people.
Because if he did care, he'd be asking the government, like, hey, get off your asses and give them
public
UBI.
health policy of all time, because not only did it fail to do what it was supposed to do, it
ended
literally
early.
did the opposite, and it threw in a bunch of collateral damage to compensate. I mean this with no exaggeration. If we did literally nothing in regards to the lockdown, we would have been better off. Every single bullet point.
Figures, facts and figures. Can I see your statistics to support that?
Don't make them himself.
Show that.
Stupid
and I'm not even done with the consequences yet. Let's talk about the authoritarianism that's been
yay! Oh my god, I'm glad that we got to get to this.
Around the world. In Kenya, more people have died from police brutality trying to crack down on people disobeying the lockdown than have actually died from COVID in that country.
Oh yeah, he used that thing from Kenya to demonize Black Lives Matter. He tried to claim that they clearly don't care about Black lives because they're not talking about the police brutality in Kenya. It's like, it's an American-focused group.
Okay, now he's bringing up Hungary, and here's the thing: that was already a fascist country.
I was gonna say
coronavirus.
their electing that dude happened way before.
He was already a fascist.
In their desperation to stop COVID, Hungary became a dictatorship. A mayor in Brazil warns of
did he seriously try and claim that COVID made Hungary a dictatorship? I need to see that again.
He died from COVID in that country. In their desperation to stop COVID, Hungary became a dictatorship.
Oh my god, are you serious?
Maybe it's because Viktor Orban is a fascist.
They had the election before COVID. Like, how... Does he seriously expect people not to, like, fact check him on this? Oh my god. Like, you can't just say shit like this and not expect people to call you out on it. Like, this isn't like you just talking about...
now he's talking about the indigenous population. Well, Bolsonaro
was targeting the indigenous population before the virus. He just started using it as an even more further
he's breaking up countries that were already authoritarian before this even happened. It's like...
Mayor in Brazil warns of genocide, with COVID killing off a specific minority at a disproportionate amount, combined with the far-right governments. In Melbourne, Australia, they have down their public housing towers in Victoria, not letting people outside. These were small apartments with no balconies, and the government took care of them like governments do, giving them food that expired in 2019 and giving Muslim families pork products that they couldn't eat. Contact tracing is another lockdown measure that has backfired horribly in some cases. In South Korea, for instance...
Oh my god, dude.
A contact tracer
I don't even know what to say.
Then increased incidents of homophobia...
That's how we defeated H1N1 here, right?
Hold on, I didn't...
in 2019 and giving Muslim families pork products that they couldn't eat. Contact tracing is another lockdown measure that has backfired horribly in some cases. In South Korea, for instance, a contact tracer traced an outbreak to a gay bar and then increased incidents of homophobia across the country, sometimes outing gay people to their conservative and homophobic families. In the United States, the mayor of New York City has been accused of anti-Semitic double standards after singling out the Jewish community in a tweet, breaking up a Jewish funeral and locking off a park in a Jewish area. He did this while supporting Black Lives Matter protests.
I
thought you hated social justice warriors, Enter. How come you're talking about this social justice bullshit?
Yeah.
I thought you hated SJWs. You made an entire video called Everything's Offensive where you essentially whined about concern trolling like that.
Trolled in greater numbers.
My daughter Kiara was arrested at a protest. She believes a lot of change.
She was not. Here's the thing. She not only was arrested at the protest, the police doxed her afterwards. They released her information
also, here's
online.
Another thing. Notice how there weren't spikes in COVID at the protests.
I bet he's going to make that argument.
Well, he's already making it now.
I bet he's going to make it.
I'm proud of her that she cares so much and she was willing to go out there and do something about it. I admire that she was out there trying to change something that she thought was unjust and doing it in a peaceful manner.
Governor Gretchen Whitmer threatened people with harsher lockdown for protesting her lockdown order.
Aged like fine wine after she almost got kidnapped. Aged like fine wine. Fine centrist wine.
And then went out herself to protest in the Black Lives Matter movement. In the United States, we've had several snitching hotlines turning neighbor on neighbor. The mayor of Los Angeles even himself infamously said, snitches get rewards. When the citizenry is encouraged to tattle on each other, it always leads to bad things.
Again, capitalism. They're financially incentivized to rat each other out.
Not to mention, what website is he using?
I don't know.
It could be like InfoWars for all we know.
Or Breitbart, which he's used in the past.
Oh, of course.
Well, maybe with some exceptions. When it was tried in New York City, it was filled with trolls and porn to the point that it had to be shut down. And when this was tried in Missouri, all the snitches got their personal information released because they needed to make it public to snitch in the first place. This information revealed exactly why this is a bad idea. A lot of the time, people snitched on bosses and workspaces they didn't like.
Where are you going with
this? Vendetta against to begin with. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but the lockdown orders are above and beyond unconstitutional here in the United States. You don't have to be political.
No, there's nothing in the Constitution that says that.
Scholar to see this. The First Amendment clearly states that the freedom to peaceably assemble shall not be infringed.
Okay, so how come you have a problem with the Black Lives Matter?
Okay, first of all, freedom of assembly doesn't mean going to bars.
Yeah.
And
also those people you're fucking defending and shit showed up with like armed fucking AR-15s, and some of them were threatening the governor. They literally hung an effigy of the governor.
Yeah.
There's no disclaimer that says, unless there's a pandemic, shall not be infringed, ever. No limit. As long as it's peaceable, you can assemble. Several of our politicians, Whitmer namely, have clearly been on a power trip, and this is hard to argue against. And no, it's not like the Founding Fathers never foresaw a potential pandemic.
Again, I don't remember you criticizing Trump for his power trips, such as banning trans people from the military, blocking travel from Muslim-majority countries.
Or even stuff like this, you're like threatening to send out the military.
Literally disappearing people in unmarked vans. I don't recall, or extrajudicially killing a guy before he could go on trial.
Or like when he killed Soleimani too.
Oh yeah, or Soleimani.
Almost started World War
It's not like they're a new thing of the 20th and 21st century. The founding fathers knew the pandemic could cause devastation even back then. In fact, George Washington even led the first mass military inoculation against smallpox. People like to point out the court decision Jacobson versus Massachusetts, in which our Supreme Court did affirm the ability of the state to suspend rights in the name of public health. This decision was used to uphold a later court case, Buck versus Bell, which determined that mentally handicapped people could be forcibly sterilized against their will, which happened up until the 1970s. It has also never been expressly overturned.
Okay. This case that was used to do a public good, it's bad because it was used to justify this other case that was bad.
Like came like 3 decades later, by the way, too.
Yeah. Again, the whole do nothing argument. They should have just done nothing. They should have just not done a case at all and just ignored everything. We should just have anarchy. No laws, no drunk driving laws, no child abuse laws, no assault charges, nothing.
Yep.
In this pandemic, Jacobson versus Massachusetts has been used to justify Texas suspending abortion rights. It's a stupid decision.
They're going to do
that anyway. Like, they have been coming up with bullshit to make it harder to get abortions for decades. Oh, yay, and he's bringing up the Tuskegee Airmen experiment. Yay.
And injecting pregnant women with plutonium. You can justify anything in the name of public health. One attorney even argued that the protocol for Ebola should be immediate execution. What? That guy later killed his mother's dog and claimed that he was the second coming of Christ. Yes, he was an actual attorney that actually had a part of high-profile cases and shit. This isn't old news either. This guy was arrested in 2018 and had a history of posting racist and misogynistic shit to Twitter before the platform banned him. Jacobson versus Massachusetts also led to the creation of the modern anti-vaccine movement, by the way.
It didn't.
It's a terrible decision.
Oh my god, dude. Oh my god.
Like Jacobson, I think it said 1908. When
this BS.
I'm pretty sure the anti-vax movement even started to the 90s, right?
I think it started in the 90s.
Like several decades after Jacobson happened.
Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. When you tell people that they have to do something, it will make some people more apt to not listen to you. I guess that's a good lean into masks. In the past few weeks, many places in the United States...
Yes, oh my god, yes.
Have put mask ordinances as lockdowns ease. And a lot of people are not happy about it, protesting in all kinds of ways. And a lot of people are wondering why the hell people don't want to wear a mask. Some people are even going around saying that they're not even effective. Where did they get that idea? From the United States Surgeon General.
Because they wanted to prevent a shortage. Oh my god. Here's the thing. Okay. I get criticizing that, and I totally get that. But here's why they likely lied. Because shortly before they made that statement, we just saw everybody buy up all the toilet paper like it was going out of style. So they probably wanted people to not do that with the masks because healthcare workers needed them. We're just I don't know, just make up something. We'll sort it out later.
Not to mention there would have been scalpers.
Yeah, that too.
Like that asshole who bought up all the hand sanitizer and needed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm so tired of people bringing that up because it's well, maybe they wouldn't have had to make that statement if you idiots hadn't bought up all the fucking toilet paper like animals.
This is going to get better.
Health officer in the entire country. On February 29th, he tweeted out that we need to stop buying masks. The tweet that is still in existence, by the way.
Hold on, let's see what it actually says. Seriously, people, stop buying masks. They are not effective in preventing the general public from catching coronavirus. Also, that was also before we knew that they were effective.
But because look at that second statement he made.
Yeah, but if healthcare providers can't get them to care for the sick patients, it puts them and our community
So it seems to be saying that
so it seems like that's
don't
mainly,
panic buy.
Yes,
that's what it's saying.
Yes.
The person we put in charge of the pandemic control, Dr. Fauci, also said that we shouldn't wear masks.
The masks are important.
Here we go again.
For someone who's infected to prevent them from infecting
Okay, here's the thing. Listen, hold on, just be quiet for a second. Okay. Listen closely to what he actually says.
Control Dr. Fauci also said that we shouldn't wear masks.
The masks are important for someone who's infected to prevent them from infecting someone else. Now, when you see people and look at the films in China and South Korea, whatever, everybody's wearing a mask. right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz?
And so it seems like what he's saying, and notice what he said at the very beginning, that it's mainly for people who have it already to prevent, because that is what it's for. That's what it's mainly intended to prevent. It's meant for people who either are confirmed to be infected or might be infected, to prevent them from giving it to others, because it blocks the droplets. It protects you very minimally if you don't already have the virus. Like if you just wear a mask and you're like around a bunch of other people that aren't wearing a mask, you are only protected. I think according to the statistic I saw once, it's at about 20%. But if you're someone who's not really wearing a mask, but you're interacting with someone who is wearing a mask and they are sick, they know they're sick, but they're wearing a mask, they have a 80% less chance of infecting you.
All right.
Sort of staying inside there.
Of course. But when you think masks, you should think of healthcare providers needing them and people who are ill.
The Center of Disease Control said not to. If you want to wonder why there's a low mask compliance...
March 31st, back when we still didn't know that much about the virus.
He doesn't even understand how science works.
He really doesn't. Like, he probably understands it based on like just random YouTube channels he's watched that aren't scientific in the slightest.
It's your own damn fault. They actually gave reasons about the effectiveness of masks.
Science.
Or the lack thereof. In a 60 Minutes interview, Fauci himself states that masks could make things worse. If people fiddle with
He didn't say that though. No, he didn't.
Like, did you watch the same clip that we
He
saw?
He didn't say that it could make things worse. Oh my god, dude.
Like that, you didn't say that at all.
Like.
Their face, which would directly lead to contamination. And this isn't just an American thing either.
Healthy West Australians are being warned against using face masks to protect themselves against coronavirus.
Yep.
A safety video is going viral,
not a very credible
showing how
source
ineffective some can be as the nation struggles with a surgical mask shortage.
It's the safety video going viral. An Argentinian firefighter with a deodorant can, simulating
you don't breathe like that.
The droplets that the virus is attached to are larger than the droplets from an aerosol can.
Not to mention, you don't exhale like a freaking aerosol bottle.
You fucking idiot.
It's like...
Oh my god. I just cannot fucking get over this. Like, I am so tired of people like doing that shit. I'm so tired of people saying, but aerosol. Anybody who says aerosol doesn't know what they're fucking talking about.
Not to mention, you don't exhale like a fucking aerosol can.
Exactly.
I would be worried if you were able to exhale like that.
Yeah. Like,
It's feared coronavirus could travel in the air, like deodorant does in aerosols. This demonstration showing most face masks are useless at trapping or blocking moisture.
It's not
because, oh my god.
95 grade.
There are actually several videos that show the risks of masks. So, before we continue,
are they credible? Are any of them credible?
Absolutely clear here. Our understanding of a mask has not changed whatsoever. We didn't suddenly learn that what Fauci said here wasn't true. While our understanding of the virus has changed, the actual understanding of the masks has not. And saying that our knowledge of the pandemic has changed over time is not a defense for what Fauci or the Surgeon General had said about masks themselves. With that in note, we have a severe problem. Either every single part of our health apparatus here in the United States was lying then, or they're lying now. This is a dangerously
listen to me, it's a novel virus and we're trying to figure out how things are working in real time.
Like I remember back when it was first starting back in March, information was changing like a motherfuck. Like, so much like different. I remember at one point, like, they started saying that like it might be able to be spread by flatulence. Of course, that turned out it wasn't true, but they started saying that because
I mean, the virus did not exist until the end of November in 2019.
Yeah.
It's a new virus, and people are going to get it right away.
Like, who's moving the goalposts now, dude? Like, you're saying that changing information is no excuse for like giving out quote unquote information that turned out to be inaccurate later down the line. It's like that's how science works. We only know what we know.
Yeah.
That situation for even the possibility of this happening. The CDC
Like, for example, homosexuality used to be seen as a mental illness. They no longer see it as a mental illness anymore.
Admit
so that
that
means
they
we
lie.
just should, let's just not trust mental health professionals now, because they used to think that homosexuality was a mental disorder.
As they wanted to save masks for the professionals. The Surgeon General also suggested the same. But Fauci himself, our disease expert, gave reasons as to why the masks don't work.
He didn't say that.
He didn't say that they don't work.
He was
The only thing that he said was that like some people might not know how to properly use them, which that's true. Which to me, in that case, make a fucking PSA. Just start making PSAs so that people know how to use them.
But those cost money, though.
Yeah.
Lie, for whatever the purpose, it means they're willing to lie again. Liars don't just lie once and then not again.
Oh my god, shut your conspiratorial fucking ass.
Like, have you thought for 1 second maybe they were wrong?
I cannot get over this guy.
Can justify it for the public health. They will lie all night and day. And the fact that there's a reasonable doubt about this is a major problem.
You are confusing reasonable doubt with reason to doubt. Like, they are not the same thing.
Admitted that he lied when he was questioned at a hearing.
Here's my question. If they are quote unquote lying about, masks suddenly working or whatever, why? Why is that a conspiracy? Why are they suddenly lying? Are they in cahoots with the mask industry to sell more masks to people? Is this like flat Earth, where the globe industry is just making people think that the Earth is round to sell more globes to people? I don't know.
You said as late, and I've got a newspaper article that as late as March 31st, there was no consensus on wearing masks.
It wasn't lying.
And the president, as you know, relies on your expertise.
Consensus.
Do you now regret not advising people more forcefully to wear masks earlier?
Okay, we're going to play that game. Let me explain to you what happened back then.
Should be a yes or no.
No, there's more than a yes or no.
There's more than
by
a
the
yes
tone
or
of your
no.
question. I don't regret that because let me explain to you what happened. At that time, there was a paucity of equipment that our healthcare providers needed, who put themselves daily in harm's way of taking care of people who are ill. We did not want to divert
I admire
masks
how calm
and
he can be, because
PPE
Lord knows
away
I would
from
not be that
them
fucking
to be
civil
used by the
situation. I'd be
people.
like, okay, let me explain this to you slowly, you fucking moron. Like, I would be like all out of fucking fucks to give. Let me just explain this very slowly so that you can understand it. Very slowly, I'll go slow.
Now that we have enough, we recommend.
This video is more than a little worrying due to Fauci's response and for
Only if you're
McKinley's
an
lack of
idiot.
Only if you're a fucking idiot.
Who doesn't understand.
Who just wants to complain and not offer any actual solutions.
And doesn't listen to what's being said closely enough.
Yeah.
Actual follow-up questions. So we're going to play that game again, Dr. Fauci says.
Yeah, I'd probably say that too, if in not so many words. If I had to continuously explain this over and over and over and over again to idiots like you who just want to catch me out on a lie that I said once.
Like Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
What game?
Like a fallacy.
Is holding him responsible for his medical advice, holding him to his word, considered a game in his mind? If he wanted to protect PPE for medical staff, why didn't he tell people to make cloth masks?
Again,
like this,
you don't have any room to act like, oh, well, we could have been responsible and saved some for the healthcare professionals after we've caused a toilet paper shortage.
Yeah.
No. CDC suggests now as better than nothing. Why should the American people trust anything else that he has to say, now that he is a known and admitted liar, who will lie as long as he can justify it
How
for the
dare
greater
he not
good?
tell the truth, all the truth, and nothing but the truth? Do you realize how many times, like, people, like, lie on a daily basis, dude? Do you think that, like, oh, this person should, like, in a position of power, should only tell the truth, only the truth, never in any context should they ever tell a lie? Are you really gonna fucking play that game? Yeah, I'm gonna steal from Fauci's book. Are you really gonna play that game? Like that nobody should ever tell a lie or whatever.
Be aware that because of his lies, there's a massive confusion within the United States about mask effectiveness. How many lives do you think could have been saved if people wore masks from the start of the pandemic? Fauci should take responsibility for lives that were lost from people who decided that masks weren't ineffective, based on his own
take responsibility for all the misinformation you've been throwing out there that even your fans and former fans have called you out on, saying that you are wrong. And you've essentially said, fuck you, no.
Hurts. Quite honestly, it's not so much that Fauci lied, but the fact that he was able to do so repeatedly, readily, and without dropping a beat. This is scary with how confident he was able to lie in
how
those...
public health works. Oh my god, dude, like...
Of course not, because he's a scholar of YouTube University.
PragerU.
videos and interviews. Whether masks work or not, Fauci lied, either
I don't
then
care.
or now. Currently, the CDC and the WHO say that masks are better than nothing. But let's really examine this. Do you, dear viewer, wear your mask properly?
Yes.
Let's run down the checklist.
Yes.
Are you
Yes.
clean shaven? Mask effectiveness is greatly reduced when facial hair breaks the seal. Any longer facial hair like a beard or such will create gaps that a virus can easily escape from. And remember, you cannot mandate that the general public be clean shaven, as that violates the First Amendment.
You're really gonna break out that. You're really gonna do that. Do you think doctors that wear masks are clean shaven? All of them? Every single one? Do you think that they shave?
They usually are.
But do you think that like all the ones, all the healthcare professionals, do you think that they shave their entire face before they go on the clock and everything? Because I've seen plenty of doctors that do have like full blown beards and everything. Most of them keep it like relatively like short, but I've seen plenty that do, and it's just like, yeah, it's better than nothing. You said it yourself. Better.
No, but once again, he's the type of person who thinks
unless it doesn't completely eliminate.
So don't fucking bother.
Yep.
Status quo. Is fashion a manner of speech, and your type of facial hair is a type of fashion. But some religions require people to not ever shave, such as the Sikh. Second question, and this is one of the bigger mistakes: does your mask cover your nose? If you don't cover your nose,
it does. Mine covers my nose. All of mine.
And look, the guy's his mouth is covering like his throat.
I was gonna say.
His mask is covering his throat.
Yeah, all of them. Like, holy shit.
Anyone else
pull it up, you idiot, and that lady's not even wearing anything.
Yeah.
Since you're basically at the same level. Third, have you ever shared a mask with anyone at all?
No.
Sharing a mask.
Why would I fucking do that? Why would I do that?
What kind of block?
Why would I do that? Why would I share a mask with somebody else? Am I a kindergarten? Do I look like a kindergartner to you? Oh my, maybe you would. Maybe you're asking that because you would, because you're fucking that stupid. But no.
Sharing someone's underwear. If someone has coronavirus and you wear their mask, congratulations, you got infected from wearing
honestly,
their mask.
that case, you deserved it.
You deserved it. If that's the case, you deserved it. The only time I would ever, like, quote unquote, share my mask with someone is if it had previously been washed, I had not used it since it was washed, then maybe I would do that. Maybe, but and if I did that, they would have to use it all that week. Like I would be like, okay, yeah, use it all that week. Don't give it back to me unless you've washed it.
Yeah.
ever used a disposable mask twice? Great, that's like using a disposable diaper or a condom twice. And of course,
most
if you
people
take your
aren't
mask...
using disposable masks anymore.
What about cloth masks, dude?
Like literally, I have a cloth mask.
I have many cloth masks.
Oh,
now.
I need extras. I only have one right now.
Yeah, I'm like, I have many cloth masks. Oh my god! And no, it's actually not like using a disposable diaper because your own germs that you already have are in the mask. Like, I don't know how to better explain this more simply. If you're the only one using a mask, even though it's used, you're not gonna get any germs except the ones you already fucking have.
Not to mention, you're not going to get like a different kind of infection.
So unless you're a dipshit and you're picking up some random mask that someone took off their face and putting it on yours,
and once again, in that case, you deserve
that's
to get
common
sick.
sense.
Mask off to talk to someone, you have ruined the whole point. You see, that whole 6-foot distance tip, that's for when you're just around each other. When you're talking, the distance is much further than 6 feet.
That's why you need to wear masks, so you can still talk while maintaining a closer distance. It blocks the particles.
Talking releases droplets further than breathing. So yes, you are expected to communicate with people from at least 6 feet away with a muffler over your mouth. Next, have you ever touched the inside of your mask?
I don't know if you're like literally gagging yourself with your mask so that like you literally can't talk.
I have to speak a little louder when I have my mask on, but it's not that bad. People can still understand what I'm saying.
Oh my god,
I just have to speak louder.
Like, you're just looking for shit to like just be offended.
Maybe he's
at
that
about
stupid.
this
Maybe he tried to put on a mask and he almost choked himself to death with it.
Dude, like
without washing your hands. You can't do that.
Ridiculous.
Your mask has now been contaminated. Do you wash your hands before putting on your mask and after taking it off? And do you
I wash my hands frequently.
Yeah.
remove the mask from the ear straps and not the mouth area? It's quite hard for people to do all these things. But if you do each of these things, congratulations, you've done everything right and you might still not be helping. Lots of people buy masks from Etsy or Amazon that are basically mesh and provide no real or even theoretical protection. If there are holes big enough in your mask to see through, the virus will get through.
Well, duh! Holy fucking shit, dude. Come up with an actual fucking point.
Instead of just exposing how stupid people are.
An actual point. That's all I'm asking. I want an actual point.
Studies on mask use assume that people use them perfectly, but as you've often seen, people don't, because the protocol to use them properly is complicated.
Once again, are you proposing they maybe make a PSA on how to properly use your mask? Because I'd be on board with that.
That actually would be very helpful, by the way.
Such as, PSAs that they made for seatbelt usage decades ago when seatbelts first came out, because they did that.
Time somebody leaves the house. So let's go over some common misconceptions with mask use. One of the most common things people will say is, all of these people are going to get COVID, but I'm going to be fine.
We're not saying that's definite. We're saying that's very likely to happen.
No, the mask, even assuming that it works, is not to protect.
I point to the Black Lives Matter protests being made up of mainly people wearing masks and seeing no significant rise.
Meanwhile, after Trump rallies, there's always spikes that can
because they're not wearing masks.
It's to protect other people from you. This is what it's supposed to do in theory. COVID or any other virus can get in through other orifices, like your tear ducts. Or, of course, if you follow mask...
That's why you wear a mask over your whore mouth, so...
protocol wrong and end up smearing the disease on your face. Rule 1 of not catching COVID, assuming that we...
fucking using Louis Gohmert's fucking excuse for when he got it. He's like, oh, the mask gave it to me. There was some virus on, I wiped my hands on my mask before putting it on. It's like, oh, well, that's your... there you go.
But seriously, if you're quoting Louis Gohmert, you need to start over.
You haven't been lied to again is not to touch your face. And by putting masks on and taking them off constantly, it requires you to touch your face repeatedly. There is reasonable doubt as to the effectiveness of masks. People have suggested that you can make a mask out of anything, including scarves or t-shirts with holes.
Make a PSA then.
Oh God, Yeah, you can make a mask, but it is important on what material you're making it out of.
Once again, make a PSA, problem solved. Like,
there is a reasonable doubt to these things working. And this is the problem with security.
There's a reason to doubt. That doubt is not reasonable.
Theater. If these things don't keep people safe and just make people feel safe, they're more likely to engage in risky behavior, violating social distancing protocols because they feel that their mask is perfect protection.
People without masks are doing it too, and even worse, people are wearing the masks.
Yeah.
What?
Well, they're supposed to be 6 feet apart even with
masks. You are.
Yeah.
Started mandating masks in July, far past their peak for COVID. If these were the silver bullets that they were praised as, why did it take so long for the Western world to start mandating them at all?
Because it's a novel virus.
In many places of the world, masks have been illegal, most notably in Hong Kong, where they were banned last year in reaction to the protests. That ban lasted until April 9th of this year, which was ruled unconstitutional.
Look how it goes.
It was also illegal in America because of the Klan. We several areas of America have allowed masks because new information.
Hong Kong was already on a decline before masks were unbanned, and months later they're on a rise again in spite of them. There is empirical evidence against the effects of masks from all over the world. Even if you ignore China, where the outbreak started, and
there's more evidence that masks actually fucking work.
He's literally like that one scientist out of 100 that doesn't think that climate change is real.
Yeah, and like just because you found a random source. Like it's like that if Google was a guy video, it's such a funny video. There's a lady who's like Googling vaccines cause autism, and Google like autocorrects it for her. Vaccines don't cause autism. She's like, they do cause autism. He's like, well, I've got all these papers that say they don't, and I've got this one paper that says it does. I knew it. And he's like, just because I have it doesn't mean it's true.
Mandated very early on. Some Asian countries like South Korea are so fed up with the masks because of it now being summer and very, very hot. And yes, it's hot and humid, and masks do make it more difficult for people to breathe.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. If you do, you have a little medical condition I like to call being a little bitch.
I fell asleep on an airplane wearing one.
It does not make it difficult to breathe. There is unless your mask is a plastic bag over your face, which I don't know why you would want to fucking wear that. It's not gonna make it difficult to breathe. Anyone who argues that is being a little bitch.
But seriously, I was able to fall asleep on an airplane wearing a mask. My God.
The thing is, if masks were said to be effective back in winter, there would be much higher compliance than there is now. On an extremely humid day, your average person is not going to want to do anything that makes it harder for them to breathe. And even if they do, they'll sweat more. Sweat is a droplet. COVID is a droplet.
Yeah, except COVID doesn't spread through sweat.
Not to mention,
it doesn't spread through sweat.
Not to mention, have you ever even sweat before? You don't usually get sweaty around your mouth.
Yeah. You get moisture around your mouth from your breath.
From spit.
Virus. This is why gyms are still closed. This is ignoring all the other legitimate health concerns that masks make.
Gyms are closed because they're literally giant petri dishes where everyone touches fucking everything. That's why gyms are closed, not because people sweat. The virus doesn't spread through sweat. It spreads through your mouth and nose. You fucking moron.
There are physical ailments that do prevent people from wearing masks.
No, there isn't. No, there's not. I've met multiple people with asthma, with other problems relating to their lungs or breathing. They can wear masks, no problem. Anybody who argues that they have a condition that prevents them from wearing masks is just being a little bitch.
Conditions that make breathing difficult on their own, such as asthma or COPD. But
you can wear a mask and have asthma. Multiple people have had it. The ones who claim they do don't actually have it.
Involves people who have limited movement capabilities, like those with cerebral palsy, those with tactile sensitivity that can lead to sensory overload, as in people with autism.
And maybe you should wear masks to prevent them from fucking getting it, since you said earlier that it prevents you from spreading it.
Psychological trauma. Masks
for fuck's sake, I have PTSD.
Psychological trauma.
I have PTSD. Fuck. Seriously, I have PTSD from my childhood because my dad abused me, and wearing a mask didn't come close.
Which again, my My retort to this is like, okay, well, I have a medical condition that prevents me from wearing clothes. So I can go all throughout the freaking grocery stores with my dick hanging out.
Yeah, you're like that lady from that...
From Metal Gear.
Breathes through her skin.
But yeah, I have a medical condition that caused me to... Yeah, I breathe through my skin. And so I can't wear clothes because it constricts. It prevents me from breathing because I breathe through my skin, not through my mouth. And so I can go through... stores and shit with my dick hanging out, and you can't say anything. You can't say anything because I breathe through my skin.